219 News Now is brought to you by the South Shore Line and by Strachan Van Til, making lives easier for 95 years.
I'm Andrew Garcia, and this is your 219 News Now. Gary Mayor Eddie Melton announced $275,000 in donated funds to help residents facing reduced federal SNAP benefits during the ongoing government shutdown. Most of the money will go to the Food Bank of Northwest Indiana, with some set aside for mini grants to local nonprofits and the city's Thanksgiving giveaway. The Gary Sanitary District will also forgive and suspend late fees through the end of the year. Melton said he plans to travel to Washington, D.C. to advocate for residents. Indiana began issuing partial SNAP payments on Tuesday as Congress moves towards restoring full funding. An online petition calling on Hobart leaders to reject all data center proposals had amassed over 1,800 signatures by Tuesday afternoon as the city's Plan Commission last week approved a full permit allowing one developer to move forward with site preparation on 61st Avenue near Colorado Street. A Change.org petition titled Stop Data Centers in Hobart, Indiana, Protect Our Community urges city leaders to reject all current and future data center proposals. The petitions argue that data centers cause strain on local water and power supplies, increase noise and air pollution, and change the city's character without providing significant local benefits. Hammond Mayor Thomas McDermott Jr., the City of Hammond, and McDermott's podcast company Left of Center Media are asking a court to dismiss former tourism chief Spiros Batistatos' defamation lawsuit. They argue that McDermott's comments criticizing Batistatos' leadership and spending at the South Shore Convention and Visitors Authority are protected under the First Amendment and Indiana's anti-SLAPP law, claiming the remarks were good faith opinions on public matters. A ruling on the defendant's motions to dismiss could come from Lake Superior Judge Daniel Burke before the end of the year or early next year. And in sports, Marquette Catholic senior Lania Davis was named the District 1 Player of the Week by the Indiana Basketball Coaches Association on Tuesday. Davis averaged 23 points, 12.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and 4.5 steals per game in the Blazers' 2 contests last week. The Northern Illinois recruit posted 19 points and 11 boards in a season-opening win over Westville. She followed up that performance with 27 points and 14 rebounds in just 24 minutes of action against South Bend Adams. The award is Davis's 4th ever IBCA Player of the Week honor. To read up on more local news and headlines, visit jedtv.com and nwi.com. I'm Andrew Garcia, and this has been your 219 News Now.
All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's the morning call with Tom Dabertin on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM in Hammond, Indiana. And it means it's 6 a.m. It is the 12th of November. How are you this morning? You're going to get up. It's going to be a little bit crisp outside, but it's going to be a lot warmer than it was yesterday or Sunday or Monday, so it's going to be a lot better. Did you see the Northern Lights last night? We want to talk about that. But before we talk about anything else, let's do traffic and weather. Traffic in Northwest Indiana looks fairly good right now. Not seeing any major problems along I-65, 8094, or the Indiana Toll Road. Klein Avenue all look good. Go across the line into Illinois, however. There is an accident on the Dan Ryan south of the Skyway, and it's backing up traffic now all the way down to about Stony Island or so. So be careful in that area. Otherwise, the Chicago area expressways look pretty good at this point in time at 6 a.m. With that, let's go to weather. Good morning, Lynette.
Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 40 degrees with highs of 53 and lows of 34. It's going to be mostly sunny today and breezy, and then later tonight will be partly cloudy. As for tomorrow on Thursday, we'll be having highs of 54 and lows of 37 with sun in areas of high clouds. And then Friday, we'll be having highs of 58 and lows of 49 and should be mostly sunny.
Return to a little warmer weather. And I mean, you got to wonder, like, why did I come back from Florida to this? But nonetheless, it's great to be here with you. We'll be here till 9 o'clock this morning, and we'll be happy to take your calls. Lots to talk about. Mark from Hobart just sent me a text. Good morning. And just to remind listeners that it is Hump Day. So he's always so gracious. He usually sends me a text message if he can't call in, and that's very nice of him. 845-1100 is the number to call. So there's a couple of issues out there. One is really pretty neat. For the first time in my life, I saw the Northern Lights last night from my yard. I could see them from my yard. It was a nice pink glow in the sky, kind of eerie, kind of cool. You should be able to see it again tonight. I was telling Annette that she needs to go to the lakefront and see the northern lights in the cleanest car on planet Earth, by the way. You have the cleanest car there's ever been. You claim you've never washed that since you got it, and I don't buy that for a minute. Your wheel covers are cleaner than anybody's I've seen.
Oh, it's dark. You can't see that well.
Yeah, so you're saying I'm losing my eyesight now, huh? But I mean, I suggested that you go see the Northern Lights tonight. It's really, really kind of a cool occurrence, and you should be able to see them again tonight. But I saw them from a yard, so I wondered how many people out there saw them last night because it was truly spectacular. This is the brightest I've ever seen. I've seen the Northern Lights before from the lakefront, primarily by taking a photo and then looking at the photo. But last night you could just see them. It was like there's no question. It was extremely bright. So 845-1100 if you saw the lights. And then, of course, we have the debacle that I'm calling it with the continuing resolution and reopening of government. So the Senate finally passed a resolution to reopen government, and 7 Democrats and 1 independent stood up and basically bolted with the Democratic Party and said enough, and they reopened government. And I have to agree that it's time to reopen government. You're hurting a lot of innocent people, hurting travelers. 5 million people had their travels interrupted last week. You had people who were going without pay. Those TSA agents and air traffic controllers and law enforcement personnel, the military, were going without pay, and that's just plain wrong. We should never cause people to have to go without pay because of the stupidity of Congress. Now the bill goes to the House, and that really poses some predicaments for a lot of individuals in the Democratic Party because they've argued that they wanted to reopen government, and now Hakeem Jeffries is pushing to not pass the resolution. To me, it's a foregone conclusion. They have enough votes to pass it. So if you're in the House, why not just jump on board and say, yes, I'm willing to reopen government. It doesn't make sense to not reopen government at this point. Love to hear from you this morning about that. We have lots of things to talk about in addition, but we have a caller, so we'll take that caller. Good morning. You are on the air.
I didn't see the Northern Lights last night, but
Why not?
Well, I think it was a year ago. I was over by Lakefront, by your wonderful Whiting, Indiana, and I took my drone up and got a good shot of it. You know,
I remember the drone shot. In fact, yes.
Yeah. You know, and your wonderful law enforcement of Whiting was next to me, and they were just amazed at what I was doing. You know, and I was sitting there. I sat there almost all the night until I could get a good shot of it. But last night I saw the Southern Lights. Because I looked out my back door and I saw the street light in the back of my alley. Because I was tired. But you know, Tom, interesting thing of me of taking students to get tested is I get a story, a history story almost every day or all the time. Because now yesterday this lady I took to go get tested, she's from East Chicago, and I says, "Oh, the harbor." She goes, "Well, yeah, that's what they call it." But she's like, So she tells me a history of living where she lived and her mom and dad and stuff. And, that's the thing. I teach the students. I help the students pass to get their CDLs. But the most enjoyment I get is I meet so many different people, and they tell me history stories of where they came from and what they did and why they're doing this. And tell me stories about the cities.
Well, I'm going to point out a history story that you actually will definitely want to know. And that is coming up on November 20th at noon at Calumet College in the second floor. Local attorney and historian David Dabertin, my brother David, my little brother, will be talking about the true roots of bluegrass, focused on Bill Monroe's connection to the area. Monroe is considered the father of bluegrass and one of the fathers of modern country music. He helped found the Grand Ole Opry. And David, of course, is quite an expert on local history. The forum begins at noon on November 20th, and it's free to attendees. So there's something to talk about because bluegrass music actually was started in Northwest Indiana, and modern country music basically also has its roots in Northwest Indiana, and nobody really seems to know about it other than a handful of historians, my brother David probably being the most obvious one. And it's really an amazing story. And I've mentioned this to the city of Hammond before, the city of Whiting. If they wanted, they're entitled to an historic marker. They should consider maybe having a bluegrass festival because bluegrass started here. If you have Sirius Radio, Sirius XM Radio, there's a whole channel dedicated to bluegrass music. Not around here.
Yeah.
So
and then I'm in a second. I'll let you go, because I know the wonderful professor be coming on right after me. But thing is, I just hope and pray that, if the government doesn't get their butt straightened out, that at least all the area around here, people will help people to make sure all the families in this area be able to have a good Thanksgiving dinner on their table.
Well, I think we're gonna,
hope the whole area.
The SNAP benefits should be restored in about 5 days once they reopen government, and that's a good point, Mike. We're coming up on Thanksgiving. People should never be held hostage on their ability to get food because the government is too dysfunctional to remain in operation. They should never be the victims. I totally agree with you, and I'm really hoping for a good Thanksgiving for everyone, and I'm glad that you brought that up.
Yeah, and then I'm going to let you go in a second, but pretty soon you're going to have that big thing going downtown Whiting with that big tent thing going on.
No, we're not doing the tent this year. We're not. We've mentioned that we're not doing the tent. The Christmas market, the Kris Kringle market that I started, is moving over to the Whiting YMCA, and it's going to be held in the lobby and the first floor of the YMCA instead. The tent was great. I did it for 3 years. It was time for me to step back, let somebody else do it, and the cost of the tent is very, very expensive. We're talking about $12,000. So it really was cost prohibitive.
And it isn't too tall. When you walk in there, you got to duck all the time.
Well, it was tall enough, but it was just too expensive. So
that's like that 1 year I was out there and walked around, and it was amazing because you walked around a minute, and I was in the area where they had the vendors,
Yes.
And I'm standing there taking pictures, and the next thing I know is, like you were saying last week, you're walking. You stand and you see above everybody else, and
sure
taking pictures, and I look, and right there, I say, "There you are! You're way up there."
Yeah, I do have I have that view over everybody.
I just wonder if you stand next to all the towers in Chicago. I wonder if you're just close. If you're just as almost tall as the Sears Tower.
No, but there's been jokes over the years that I probably am closer to being hit by lightning than most individuals, and it's probably true. Although technically speaking, the height wouldn't make a lot of difference. But when I walk down the street, I see the top of people's heads. I just do. Oh, yeah. I mean, I look out, like if I'm in downtown Chicago, I see the top of everybody's heads, and it's a different perspective. And again, I've talked to a couple of people taller than me. The one person that had a lot of fun one time was standing behind me, getting into a Valparaiso University basketball game, and I hear this voice from above me instead of below, and it was Rick Smits, the famous NBA player, the Flying Dutchman, and he was behind me, and he said, "How does it feel to be short for a change?" And he's 7'2", so he's 5 inches taller. Hey, thanks so much for the call.
Well, yeah. Hey, I'm going to let you go, and all your listeners and the station staff and everybody, just have a wonderful and beautiful and safe day today.
All right. Thanks so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
I believe we have another caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Well, speaking of Whiting, the edition of the Panorama magazine, which is headlined as Northwest Indiana's entertainment magazine, Mindbenders, was featured on the front page. And with Christmas rapidly moving toward us, they have a lot of things for people who have everything, especially for smart teenagers, puzzles and games of all kinds. And I'm sure you have been in that store.
Walt, I'm in there all the time, and in fact, every single year since they opened, when they were in their smaller location and now they're much bigger location, I've been in there, and Joel and Amy are terrific, terrific owners and have helped me out trying to find games and gifts for my son and my daughter. And every single year we end up buying something from there. In fact, Joel is so good that Joel knows my son Tom is into board games, and Joel knows always the hottest board games out there. So my son will want some obscure board game that nobody's heard of, but I'll go in and Joel will be like, yep, I kind of figured he was interested in this one. I've got one up on the top shelf, and he pulls it off, and he has it. Nobody else in America will have that game but Joel Bender. So Mindbenders is a great store, and I know you've been there, and it's really remarkable.
I went in there to look for some stuff for my teenage grandsons. They're both really smart kids, and I gave them general ideas to what kind of kids they were, and they came up with some things that I was able to buy. They're located at 1442 119th Street, the main drag in Whiting.
Yeah, and if you just look straight across from Whiting City Hall, I mean, you could actually take a bowling ball and drop it down Whiting City Hall stairs, and it would go right through the front door of Mindbenders.
It's their number is area code 219-237-4386. Do you know what this item here in the panorama? They don't mention specifically what days they're open. Are there any days that they're not open?
Toward Christmas, they're open every day of the week. Joel will be there on Sunday afternoons, and they usually have extended hours beginning with Thanksgiving. In fact, Joel's going to be on in the next couple of weeks, so he's going to be talking about Mindbenders, and I'm going to have him on both through the Chamber Show and just as a friend. I'm going to have him come in because Joel and Amy really have a knowledge of gifts, especially toys, games, and these are, as you know, they're games for adults, they're games for teenagers, for small children. They have all of it. And Joel has such a knowledge of the trends and what's going on that I want to bring him in and really give him a chance to do a deep dive talking about what's out there this year for Christmas.
Well, the more good news is that finally there are enough senators, Democrat senators, they're willing to vote for the continuing resolution. And oh, by the way, the continuation was Biden's budget kind of thing. Crazy situation. The Republicans were voting for it. They exercised their majority in both houses and so forth. But through parliamentary tricks available to people,
Walt? Hello? Walt, I think we lost you. If you want to call right back. We lost you, Walt. Give us a call right back because you're getting right in the heart of today's conversation, which, of course, is the reopening of government and the passing of the continuing resolution. So give us a call right back. 845-1100. Where Walt was going was, again, you had seven members of the Senate who bolted from their party along with one independent from Maine to go ahead and pass the continuing resolution. It reopens government. As Trucker Mike mentioned, it makes SNAP benefits available for individuals and families again, which you hate to see people in need get hurt. It allows payment for air traffic controllers and full restoration of air traffic control. It allows for payment of TSA agents, the military, law enforcement, all the people that are employed by the federal government, all the people that have been hurt by the shutdown unnecessarily. And it's just wrong. And whether you're a Democrat or Republican, it's wrong to take money out of people's pockets that don't deserve to be hurt because the two-party system in Washington is so dysfunctional. And that's my view. So give me a call at 845-1100. We're going to take a quick break, waiting for Walt to give us a call back. And you're listening to the Morning Call on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. You can also listen to us on the TuneIn app, Jed TV, and, of course, YouTube Live. We'll be right back.
Truck drivers, don't miss out on the unmatched consistency of a Schneider driving job. At Schneider, you can find a driving position that fits your lifestyle and goals, all while getting the pay you deserve. Plus, Schneider drivers operate state-of-the-art, well-maintained equipment and have access to award-winning benefits and a 24/7 support team. Explore Schneider's huge selection of driving jobs today and find your perfect fit at SchneiderJobs.com. That's SchneiderJobs.com.
Hard Rock Casino Northern Indiana wants to make you a winner every Friday in October with our $500K Double Down giveaway. Earn entries each week to boost your chance of winning a guaranteed $50,000. Then you can choose to walk away or risk half for a shot at $100,000 in cash. Do you dare to double down? Only at Hard Rock Casino Northern Indiana, just off Exit 6, I-8094. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-9-WITH-IT.
Life's biggest challenges don't come with a warning. When legal issues arise, whether it's a car accident, personal injury, criminal charge, or representing you before municipal boards, you need a trusted advocate on your side. At Westland & Bennett, we listen first because your story matters. We provide strategic, personalized legal solutions to protect your rights, your freedom, and your future. Peace of mind starts with a conversation. Call 219-440-7550 today for a free consultation.
Tech Credit Union supports the essential role of union labor in building strong communities. That's why we offer hassle-free banking, financial empowerment, and a commitment to your success. Save for the future, handle life's challenges, and trust a partner that stands by hardworking union members. Tech Credit Union, the better option for you and your money. Visit techcu.org or call 800-276-8324. Tech Credit Union, supporting union families every step of the way.
You gotta catch up with me. Yeah. I'll catch up with you. I'll be right back. I'll see you in a minute.
Anything else? Yeah.
Well, what's up, boy? Hey, Ryan. Not tonight, man. Not tonight. Oh, yeah. You guys got Ryan. Hey, come on. Let's go. Come in.
All right, we're back, and of course, the big issue of the day is the passage by the Senate of the continuing resolution to reopen government and the debate in the House. And we've got a couple of callers waiting, so let's go right to those callers. Good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, the SNAP program. My daughter-in-law called. Do you know how much she got?
How much?
$9.
Well, this was because of the partial funding, right?
I guess, but
yeah, it was because of the partial funding. So the problem is that the SNAP program, like a lot of federal programs, were out of money, so they were only able to give what they had available to fund the program. And again, I think it's totally wrong that you've got people that are suffering. Your daughter-in-law has nothing to do with the government shutdown. I mean, yes, she's a citizen of the United States, but she shouldn't be penalized because Congress can't figure out how to reopen government.
Yeah, there's other people. One of my granddaughters got 197. And another relative got 300. So I don't get the point of the $9.
Well, it depends. My understanding is it just depended on how long they'd been in the program, where they're in the what state they're in the program. So there were a variety of issues. But the good news is that once the House passes the resolution, hopefully tonight, they should be able to see funds, I'm told, within 5 days into their SNAP benefit program. I think it'll be wonderful for all these individuals that depend on that type of aid to be able to have funds in there to buy food again and be able to plan for, again, as was mentioned before, even Thanksgiving dinner. So to me, it's just sad that Congress gets paid the entire time that there's a shutdown, but they hurt so many millions and millions of people with these types of shutdowns. It's really sad. And the claim that they needed to do this because they needed to fix Obamacare. Obamacare absolutely needs to be fixed. I've talked about it before. I can talk about it again today. But the fact is that you don't hurt tens of millions of people for no reason other than to get your political point across. It was just wrong. So.
Yes, it is. All right.
All right. Well, thanks so much for calling. 845-1100 is the number to call. We've got another caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Now that
there you go.
Yep. Any case, now that we have the government going to be back in normal operating procedure, it's time to look at programs like SNAP, or used to be called food stamps. When the food stamp program was first initiated back in the 60s during the Lyndon Johnson administration, it cost the taxpayer $20 million for the year. Today, it's $8 billion a month, and it went up. The numbers on the SNAP program went up dramatically during the Biden administration, and I've heard people say that before Biden, you actually had to qualify for it in terms of providing documentation on your income and so forth. And during the Biden administration, they basically handed it out if you wanted it, and that included illegals. So that needs to be looked at, just to protect those medical, to protect that benefit for American citizens who are in need of it. Second thing is they need to look at Obamacare. I mean, there wasn't anything that Obama said about it that was true. Remember him saying, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor under Obamacare. And he insisted that it would reduce the cost of medical care. It has done none of those things. And I had an interesting encounter with my general practitioner at the time, and I had been with her for a while, so we had a casual, friendly relationship. And she's out of the blue. I was there for just a routine examination, and she says, "What do you think of Obamacare?" And I said, "I don't think much of it because I don't think it is not delivered on what they promised." And she said, "It has been a horror. It has been insane." And then she said to me, "Why do you think they would enact legislation like that functions as badly as it does?" And I said, "Well, for some of us, we think this was done to be such a mess that then their answer would be universal medical care. In other words, socialized medicine." And I said, "It would make. How would you like to be an employee of the government?" She says, "No, I wouldn't want that at all." But
well, I agree. If you talk to most healthcare providers, especially physicians, they have a lot of concern about the Affordable Care Act. It has not done what it was designed to do. I mean, there are some good aspects. Okay, the provision that basically extends health care provisions to young adults, the argument of an annual physical for every adult. Those things make sense, but there are a lot of things that are wrong with it. For example, it was supposed to eliminate some of the barriers that exist right now of buying health care insurance from one state to another. And they basically caved on that. There was too much pressure, so they wrote that out of the plan. Some of the there's a good point about requiring written records and using the Universal Health Code. That made sense, but at the same time, there are so many missteps in it that it needs to be fixed. It's just not competitive. What it's done is it's caused a collapse of competition within the healthcare insurance industry, and now you have only 3 or 4 big players left.
We should be able to buy health insurance just like we buy automobile insurance. You can go wherever you are offered the best deal. And there's nothing, when it comes to things like money, boy, you need competition. Because if you give anybody a gimme, they will exploit it to the nth degree and act as if it was given to them by God, nothing less. And if you touch it, it's like you've committed a horrible crime against humanity. But it's got we on a percentage of our general GDP, we spend more in America than they do in countries like Europe, where they have a socialized system of medicine. Now, having lived in Germany for one summer, I can tell you the kind of medical care that they deliver, the facilities are very modest compared to American medical facilities. They don't have the kind of luxurious waiting rooms and so forth. They keep the cost down by not gold plating the system.
Well, Walt, let me tell you about a conversation that I had with a woman by the name of Steph, who is down in Florida. She and her husband, they're young. She's 29 years old, beautiful young woman. And I met her at the dog park, my wife and I, and we started talking to her. And she and her dog and her husband are down there for the winter from Canada, and they've decided to move permanently. So we asked her about, well, what about healthcare in Canada? And she basically described Canada right now as an S-hole. Okay, you can fill in the other 3 words, 3 letters. And she said, by the way, as far as our healthcare system, our supposedly great healthcare system, you will wait for months if you need any kind of medical treatment. She said it's a disaster. She didn't care for it at all. And here's this young, attractive woman and her husband, and they've decided that they're moving out of Canada because they're afraid of what's going on there. They said it has become a socialist country. Nobody cares about the free market. Nobody cares about competition. Nobody cares to work. Everybody wants a handout, and she just went on and on and on, and she's 29 years old and just getting started in life, and said, we can't tolerate it anymore. We're leaving. We're staying here permanently.
Yeah, the wokest Democrats, they portrayed Canada's socialized medical system as just a wonderful thing, and they don't tell the whole truth. I mean, about extensive waits in line for appointment on serious medical problems, cancer, serious heart problems, and so forth. And in a way, it depends on the management of it. My brother now lives in Scotland, and he and his British girlfriend, they looked at living in England versus Scotland, and they came to the conclusion they were better off in Scotland because on the medical front, for example, he told me that he asked for a medical appointment and he got one the very day that he asked for it. Whereas in England, you might have to wait for weeks and weeks and weeks to get an appointment for a routine medical appointment in England. So apparently Scotland's doing something different in terms of the way they manage the system. And because I watch on Sunday evening, they have a program on public television called Prime Minister's Question Time, and it comes out of the the time when the prime minister has to stand there and he's bombarded with questions from all the different parties and so forth. And the issue that keeps coming up over and over and over again: what are you going to do to fix the national health delivery system? Because in England, as opposed to Scotland, it is a disaster zone, kind of like Canada.
Well, and Mark from Hobart just sent a text and reminded me that, of course, pre-existing conditions was one of the issues that I left off the list this morning of the positives of the Affordable Care Act. But he's right. He said, it was a first draft, and even Obama has said before, for what it's worth, that the Affordable Care Act needed to be fixed. The problem is, as I mentioned last week, the Democrats don't trust the Republicans because they view that as a hallmark of their time in government. So they don't want the Republicans to toy with the Affordable Care Act, and the Republicans basically want to go in, and there are some Republicans who want to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which is wrong. So you don't have, once again, you don't have consensus, but of course you can't get consensus even on leaving open the government, let alone reopening government. So I'm not surprised. I mean, there are so many things that we could do to fix the Affordable Care Act. Those subsidies that were increased during COVID, people have become dependent on them, and all it's really done, Trump is right, it's fattened up the insurance companies. The insurance companies keep on taking the money being thrown to them.
Right.
And I'm not totally 100% convinced that he's right about giving individuals the subsidy and letting them use it to buy insurance to offset their costs. I'm not sure that that'll happen because I think too many people will use that $2,000 or $3,000 that he was talking about for other expenses. But I think something needs to happen. If you keep on giving the insurance companies all these subsidies, they're just using the money to basically get fat and happy. They're not doing anything with it.
And paying huge salaries to their executives.
Absolutely. Massive salaries.
What Republicans need, they've talked over the years how they could design a much better system, and it would have competition and so forth. But they talk about what we could do. They need to put out a program. Let's all look at it, and let's go through it like we deal with it like any other big ticket item, and to discuss and debate and comment and so forth to see if we can come up with a system that preserves the competition, starting with the simple reform of you can buy health insurance anywhere in the country, like automobile insurance. That's the one I would like to see to start with.
I agree. I think more competition is necessary. I think that there are some big mistakes. But again, Mark is right. It was a first draft, and the problem is that we've sat all these years since Obamacare was passed. We've sat there and done nothing to enhance it, to improve it, to alter it, to make it more responsible and more responsive to the needs of the American people. And once again, it's because of the gridlock. And I'm not going to blame the Democrats or the Republicans. I'm going to blame both, just as I blame both for the shutdown. And I blame both for the gridlock that we have in this country. It's time for us to move on. It's time for us to do what the people who elect Congress to and expect Congress to do, to get them to do that, just that, to actually do something. Not sit there and tell us how they've done so much for us and they've done nothing, or tell us how they're working on things and they're not. I mean, how many times have you heard Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, say that they were going to introduce a bill to improve the Affordable Care Act? Well, they haven't. They haven't. Right. So if you're the Democrats, do you trust Mike Johnson? Because he keeps on saying they're going to do it, but they haven't done it. At the same time, if you're the Republicans, how do you trust the Democrats? Because you can't even get the Democrats. They're saying that tonight's vote to reopen government may end up with 2 or 3 members of the House, Democratic members of the House at most, to vote to reopen government. And the American people are tired of this. There is no doubt in my mind that the vast majority of Americans want the government reopened. They don't want people to be hurt for their SNAP benefits, and the TSA agents and the air traffic controllers and everybody else, they want them to get their paychecks. When you worked, you got your paycheck. When I work, I get my paycheck. Well, they deserve their paychecks. And it's wrong. It's wrong for Congress to get paid and nobody else. It's just wrong. And so I think most people want government to reopen. And again, they're going to vote tonight. The majority of Congress, or the majority of the Democratic Party is going to vote to not open government tonight,
right?
Which I think is insane.
Well, you were talking earlier about the bluegrass, I believe. Were you not?
Yes. My brother David is quite an expert on local history. We've talked about it over the years. Jed always says he's probably the best, the most knowledgeable person on history around, and I would say that's not far off. And David is going to speak at Calumet College on November 20th at noon about the roots of bluegrass, which are in northwest Indiana, and people don't know that.
It's one of my favorite. I love classical music, but bluegrass is right up there. Are you a fan of jazz music?
I am not. Now, I've got some brothers that are. My brother Peter, who's been on the show before, is. My brother Mark certainly is. But I'm not a huge fan of jazz. I do like bluegrass. I like classical music. I like rock music. Our mother, growing up, instilled in us an appreciation of music, no doubt about it. She had a professional singing career before she got married, and she focused heavily on music when we were kids.
I'm going to recommend a jazz singer that appeared on Austin City Limits on public television. Are you familiar with that show? I'm
very familiar with it. I think it's one of the best shows out there. But you know what?
Yep.
People are arguing right now. Well, Austin City Limits. We need to continue to fund public broadcasting with government dollars to bring shows like that. That show is profitable. They don't need any funds.
Well, they had on November 2nd. They had a performer, jazz performer, who was really. I was impressed. Her name was Samara Joy, college-educated lady, spoke excellent standard English. No screaming. When she sang, I could understand the words she was singing. That goes big with me. That if I can understand the vocalist speaking plain English, that's much in my favor, as opposed to not being able to understand what they're saying because they're screaming and talking some kind of English other than the standard English. But Samara Joy, recommend her. Check her out and listen to her tunes.
All right, we'll leave it with that. Thanks so much, Walt. Thanks for your call. 845-1100 is the number. We've got additional callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, well, as you and Walt are talking about that Obamacare isn't working, I contend it's working exactly as designed. It's designed to redistribute income and to socialize the entire insurance medical industry so that the government can run the whole thing, have nobody pay for anything, and the government pays for everything to hook more people in to voting for Democrats in Obamacare, which is,
let's hold on. Let me just interrupt you for a second. Okay, Mike, if you're gonna call, you got to have a two-way conversation, or you're not going to call. Okay, so you're going to have. It's got to be a two-way conversation, Mike. You've got to let people. You've got to let people talk. Okay. My point is. Okay, we're going to end the call. All right. Thanks for calling. I mean, again, love to have people call, but Mad Mac likes to call, and he does a diatribe, and if he wants to call back and have a discussion, I'll be glad to have the discussion with him. But just for him to sit there and spend 5 minutes throwing mud at the Democrats and just blaming everything under the sun, it's just not right. So we've got to have a dialogue, Mad Mac. Just have to do it. 845-1100 is the number to call. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Morning Call on WJOB.
For over 140 years, the Central Midwest Carpenters have built our communities in Northwest Indiana. Are you ready to join the effort? We have long-term work, competitive pay, and the best benefits in the industry. We pride ourselves on innovative training and commitment to worksite safety. Earn as you learn as an apprentice. A solid career built on a solid legacy. For more info, go to carpenters.com.
Have you ever considered becoming an iron worker? Local 395 is now accepting applications for their apprenticeship program. Go to ironworkers395.com. Look under the training section, click on apprenticeship, and scroll down to the application. You must be 18 years old, have a high school diploma or GED, and you must be physically able to perform the work of the trade. Find out more by calling the apprenticeship school in Lake Station at 219-962-7675 or visit ironworkers395.com.
Tired of that cracked driveway? Dreaming of a new patio or need a concrete partner for your next big project? Call RNC Concrete Construction, family owned with 30 plus years serving Northwest Indiana. From residential driveways to stamped patios and commercial foundations, we pour with pride and deliver lasting quality. Call today for your free estimate at 219-779-9370. That's 219-779-9370. RNC Concrete, where your concrete vision comes to life.
Siri, read me that text.
Sorry, I can't complete your request.
You want me to read that?
No, I got it.
Construction zone.
I see it.
Watch it. Oh my God. You're gonna hit him!
Oh, fuck!
When driving in a construction zone, be smart, be alert, be in the zone.
This is Brian Short, business manager for the Indiana Laborers District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save lives. We're all in this together.
A message from Indiana's District Council of Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
Do you want to get a vaccine, but it's difficult to get to your healthcare provider? Call the folks at Right Care Pharmacy. They'll come to your home, discuss your vaccination status with you, and administer the appropriate vaccine with expertise. They offer vaccines for flu, shingles, pneumonia, hepatitis A and B, TDAP, RSV, and COVID. They've been serving the Lake and Porter County community for over 11 years and are fluent in Spanish. Call Right Care Pharmacy at 219-655-5028.
Introducing Powers Health, a health system with a new name and a strong legacy of caring for families in our community. One with a tradition of advanced specialized services and a vision for the future. One with a commitment to medical excellence and compassionate care. Everything we do, everything we believe, powers health.
All right, we're back. 845-1100 is the number to call. We have callers? We do not have callers. Again, if Mad Mac wants to call back and he wants to have a discussion about what needs to be done to the Affordable Care Act, I'll be glad to have that discussion. But just to blame the Affordable Care Act and claim that it's a push toward socialism and it was designed to cause people to basically have problems, I don't buy that. I've read the Affordable Care Act from one end to the other. Mac, you haven't. I guarantee you haven't read it as closely as I have. And all the claims that you're bringing up is basically not based on fact. It's based on conjecture. And so I want people to know what the problems are and how it could be fixed. And I think that'd be a great discussion. And you're an intelligent guy. So if you want to call back and have that discussion, I'm gladly have it. But to claim that it was deliberately designed to be the fiasco that it is, I don't believe it was. I actually believe that there was some good intent in it. I think that there were a lot of things thrown out when it was first debated, where there were people pushing for socialized medicine. That's true, but Obamacare was not really the push. What you're doing is you're trying to combine the comments that Hillary Clinton made and what Hillary Clinton was trying to push for when her husband was president. You're trying to combine that with Obamacare, and there are some major differences. So 845-1100 is the number to call. If you're a member of Congress, what do you do tonight to vote? The Democrats are basically tightening the screws on members of Congress, including on Frank Mrvan, saying that the Democrats will not vote to reopen government. And not voting to reopen government is quite a predicament to be in, because you're saying basically that you want people to continue to suffer. You want people to not get their SNAP benefits. You want people to continue to not get paychecks for doing their job. You want to continue the mayhem and the problems that exist with air travel right now. I think it's very hard to vote against reopening government, but that's my own opinion. So 845-1100, it looks like we've got some callers. Good morning, you're on the air.
All right, we'll try it one more time.
Sure, go ahead.
Simple question to you. Did they say if you wanted to keep your doctor, you could keep your doctor?
Absolutely, and that was a big mistake. Absolutely.
No, it wasn't a mistake. It was a lie. They admitted later they lied about that. Rahm Emanuel's brother designed this thing. He said, we simply need to convince people this will work. We know it won't work. He said they've admitted that, Tom. He's admitted that, and you know that, and I know that.
Again, the issues with Obamacare, debating what happened in 2009 doesn't really get us too far, does it? Okay.
You're kidding, right?
I think it's at this point. I don't think there are too many people that really believe that Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act would completely go away. All right, let me throw this out. Hey, tell you what, Mike, let's get rid of it. Let's get rid of it for a minute, okay? Let's take your approach. We're going to get rid of it completely. What are you going to replace it with? And don't tell me the free market system, because the free market system will not work with healthcare anymore, because healthcare insurance companies basically have merged and consolidated, and there are only three or four big players left. So you can't say, well, we're just going to go and take all the controls off. You know what? Pre-existing conditions, we're going to take that control off, and we're going to take the control off of the free annual physical, and we're going to take off all the controls that exist. The insurance for young adults until they're 25, staying on their parents' insurance. We're going to take all those controls off. Then what do you do?
Why did they put all of those things into Obamacare? It was to make everybody dependent on a government-subsidized system to get you in. Because like any government program, once they started and can get people in, it'll never, ever leave. Okay. They told you they would reduce the cost. They were never going to reduce the cost. The insurance companies were literally printing money from the day Obamacare went in.
That I agree with you on. I totally agree with you. It's benefited them.
So if that actually happened then, if all of a sudden Obamacare goes in and it's to help the public, why is it the price went up immediately, but the government stepped in to subsidize it? Because the plan was to get government to control all of health care. It was not to deliver health care to the public. It was to get the government to take over the entire industry, to redistribute income from those who put into the pile to give to those who don't. Right now, if you make a $590,000, you can get a government subsidy, and they don't even check. How is that possible, Tom?
Mac, I'm not disagreeing with you on many of the points that you're making. My point is that you have to replace it with something else. You can't simply say, we're just going to let the free market handle it and we're going to pull off all controls and all restrictions. Can you? Do you really believe that?
Well, the way it's working right now, nobody's getting... All I hear is that Obamacare is going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. And since the thing started, everybody's complaining about their health insurance going up. Mine went from like $850 for a family plan. I was paying just shy of $4,000 a month in cash. It changed in a blink of an eye because my insurance got pulled away from me
so
that Mr. Obama told me I could keep if I wanted.
All right, so here's my point. My point is, let's talk about what needs to be fixed and how you fix it. Okay? The fact that it's broken has been well established, and you've done a really good job of articulating the fact that it's broken. So have others. My point is, what do you do to fix it? What do you do to fix it right now? Whether you like it or not, it's had a huge impact on health insurance, right? It's basically caused companies to consolidate.
For the better or for the worse?
Well, in many parts for the worse. I agree with you, and I said that on Friday. It's caused a lot of problems for a lot of people, and you're absolutely right.
And who else are we paying for?
The cost has increased exponentially for families. All right, so when you said it went up to $4,000, that doesn't shock me because I know what those numbers are, and I agree with you. It's caused health insurance to become way too expensive for individuals and way too expensive for companies that provide those benefits to their employees. It's extremely expensive. So how do we fix it? That's my point. You can't get rid of. You simply can't say we're just going to totally repeal the Affordable Care Act, because there are provisions that you need to keep, all right? You have loved ones and I have loved ones that have pre-existing conditions. You can't get rid of the pre-existing condition provision. You'd have to keep that, correct?
But you didn't need to do that by trying to attempt to take over the entire industry, which is what they're continually trying to do. That's why the Democrats don't want to open government. They want to keep it shut until we continue to pour trillions into this system. One part of it is for actual legal Americans, and the other part is, which these guys have admitted time and time again in this shutdown, we want health care for every illegal in this country.
And I'm with you on
wrong.
that. I'm totally with you on that as well. I agree. It should be available to American citizens. I agree. Okay? So we've agreed.
And yet that's what they're fighting for. Right. That's why what's his name? Hakeem Jeffries, the linguistic artist for the Democrats,
Mike, wait a minute.
They are not going to agree with it.
Wait a second. The Senate has agreed to take up revisions to the Affordable Care Act. Right? That was part of the continuing resolution passed by the Senate.
Well, they'd agreed to put it up for a vote. We know what's going to happen there. They're going to vote
put it up for a vote and to have discussion on meaningful change. That's what Thune said. It's to meaningful change to the Affordable Care Act. So let's talk about the Affordable Care Act for a minute. There are some things that are good about the act that you don't want to get rid of. That's my point. You don't want to get rid of the pre-existing condition clause. You don't want to get rid of the provision that says that people get an annual physical, because if you get an annual physical and you get the 40 panel blood test, you'll find out a lot of problems about people in their infancy instead of when it's full blown cancer or heart disease. So that makes sense.
Preemptive health is very good.
Right.
Preemptive monitoring, no doubt.
Okay, so that makes sense. Allowing young adults to stay on their family's insurance till they're 25, 26, that makes some sense too, because in a lot of times, especially this day and age, young adults are graduating from college, they're going to work for employers, and oddly enough, employers aren't extending health insurance benefits to the very group that they should, which is young adults. I mean, if you're an employer, you want Lynette
Why should an employer be paying for insurance anyways?
Well,
young people don't need that much insurance. They're young. They're healthy.
Well, they are.
But if they could go out in the open market and get a cheap policy, you can't do that because that's illegal.
Okay, but Mad Mac, you know somebody very close to you that had some health problems when they were very young, right? Young adult. So having that provision makes sense. Okay, but not everybody does. Not everybody does. My point is that that is one of the cheapest provisions of the Affordable Care Act, by the way. if you go back and you read the Kaiser Family Foundation, which is generally viewed by Democrats and Republicans as a think tank and a source for unbiased information. The Kaiser Family Foundation says that was one of the cheapest provisions of the Affordable Care Act, was to extend those benefits. Why? Because, again, if I'm an employer and I'm going to insure, say, someone like Lynette, she's young, she's healthy, she doesn't have a lot of health insurance costs, so that's an easy one, all right? So those are provisions that I think you need to keep. Now, let's talk about the problems with it, okay? The unfair competition. For example, it does not allow for cross-state competition when it comes to health insurance. Why not?
Right, and that's the part I would agree with you that, there's blame in Congress on both sides because they've designed this to put profitability guaranteed into every insurance company by putting up restrictions.
Yep.
I mean, there's a reason why there's right over on the state line in Lansing, just off of Torrance Avenue, there's a group of condos and apartments over there. Well, they have maybe 1,100 residents, but they have about 50,000 residents using mailing addresses there for health insurance.
I've heard
because
that.
there's certain rules that allow them. If you're in Illinois, the rules can be a little different, and you can jump on Blue Cross and Blue Shield, whatever it is.
Right.
So people from all over the country have addresses there that are used, that are sold on the black market, and they circumvent the rules and regulations put in by Congress to promote and make profitability in those industries. If they would step back and let the free market operate better, I mean, my God, look at all the Catholic organizations that offer health insurance that say, hey, you can come onto ours, but we got a lot of restrictions like don't smoke, you better not drink a lot, and if you're like the size of the governor of Illinois, where you could sit down and crush a toilet with one fell swoop, we're probably not going to take you on the plan until you drop some weight.
Yeah,
but
well,
that's not going to happen
by the way,
with Obamacare.
it looks like he might be taking Ozempic because he's lost quite a bit of weight, if you noticed.
He's takingOzempic down faster than let's not mention Cusack, by the way. All right, anyways, that's all I'm trying to say.
No, you know what?
Is that this program, Obamacare was set up to socialize medicine and take over the whole thing and subsidize everybody. And if you make $500,000 a year, come on.
I agree with you. Look, I agree with you on the limits. I agree with you on the limits. I agree with you on a lot of things. But, this is a conversation that needs to happen. Okay, you and I talked just now, and you said, look, there is blame on both sides with where we're at. Okay, there are adjustments that need to be made. There are changes that need to be made. And this is my point this morning, is we need to start talking about how to fix this thing rather than just bring up, basically the history of it, which, again, the history notwithstanding, we've got to fix what's wrong with it.
I thought we always said something like, if you don't understand history, you're going to repeat the same mistakes in the past.
Well, that's true. You will, but the point is that, Mad Mac, when you've called about the Affordable Care Act before, it's basically kind of a rerun of history because you've mentioned it several times. I get it. I understand the problems that existed, and I agree with you on those problems. My point is that instead of just bringing up the origins and the debate that occurred in 2009, let's talk about the problems that exist and how to fix it. And you and I actually have agreed on some things this morning on how to fix it, which is the biggest issue of all, which is take the gloves off on competition. Allow people to basically buy their health insurance cross state lines. That in itself would make a significant change in the cost of health care. But they won't do it because they're protecting it.
At the same time, I don't want to deal with people who literally said, this will save your life. It'll be cheaper. I remember the idiotic term, we're going to bend the cost curve. What the hell that's the dumbest expression I've ever heard. And then when these guys come out, and 4 and 5 and 9 and 10 years later, well, yeah, we kind of lied about that. Yeah, we kind of lied about that. Oh, kind of. Okay, and then you want me to go deal with these people who readily come back and say, yeah, we stood up there and put on a great show, didn't we? We suckered you in. we lied, we got all the money, and now we're screwing everybody.
Well,
how's that work? And then you want me to go back and work with those Democrats?
All right, but
I don't think so.
Okay, but let's just take a look back at history and talk about the lies that have been told by Congress and by government to the American people. I mean, George W. Bush told us that there were weapons of mass destruction.
He had nothing to do with Obamacare.
No. My point is, both sides lie. Okay, you can go through. You can look at what LBJ said about some of the the reasons for going into Vietnam. I
don't think he had anything to do with Obamacare either, Tom.
My point is that government has lied to us for years. By the way, I want to change subjects a little bit. There was a report that came out over the weekend that basically claims that a former member of the Capitol Police is the primary suspect in planning the bombs at the Republican and Democratic headquarters on the eve of January 6th. Are you aware of that report?
Yeah, now she works as a security officer for the CIA.
Yes. Isn't that very interesting? And no one is willing to touch that report so far, other than a couple of news sources.
Why don't you play the videotape of Nancy Pelosi in the limo with her daughter filming the documentary that she was already in the midst of producing prior to the January 6th little fiasco, where she says, yeah, I did have the police, and I could have sent them out there, but I didn't, and that was a mistake.
Well, okay, but I can counter Nancy Pelosi with some of the things that Mike Pence has claimed. And, he's a Republican, and he was vice president at the time, and some of the things that he's claimed.
He had no control over the police.
I know, but they've discounted a lot of the claims that he's made, too. See, the point is that we're getting lied to on everything, and there lies the problem. Hey, thanks for calling.
Okay.
Take care. 845-1100, we have another caller. All right, why don't we take a quick break? You're listening to the Morning Call on WJOB, 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. We'll be right back.
If you're thinking of finishing your basement, installing outdoor security cameras, or your business has plans to break ground on a new project in 2024, Powering Indiana, Lake County is your source for the region's best electricians. With IBEW, Local 697 electricians, you're choosing the highest level of safety and reliability. Visit poweringindiana.org today and ensure your project is in the hands of skilled professionals.
From the gas in your car to the heat in your home and the roads that you drive on, our work powers daily life. We are USW Local 71, the proud men and women of the Whiting Refinery. We're not just refinery workers. We're your friends and neighbors, raising our families here, shopping in the same stores, and cheering in the same stands. USW Local 71, powering the region because we are the region.
Are you searching for a college where you belong? Calumet College of St. Joseph wants to know you and give you the support you need to succeed. Are you worried about how you'll pay for your degree? 95% of our students receive financial aid, including scholarships and grants. Need some extra help with your classes? You'll benefit from our small class sizes, free tutoring, internship planning, faculty mentors, and so much more. Come experience our accepting, supportive college family for yourself. Schedule your campus visit and apply at ccsj.edu.
Tech Credit Union supports the essential role of union labor in building strong communities. That's why we offer hassle-free banking, financial empowerment, and a commitment to your success. Save for the future, handle life's challenges, and trust a partner that stands by hardworking union members. Tech Credit Union, the better option for you and your money.
Visit techcu.org or call 800-276-8324. Tech Credit Union, supporting union families every step of the way.
At Strachan Van Til, we believe grocery shopping should be simple. Now, shopping is easier than ever with our new and improved website. Find what you need fast. Browse your favorite products, add them to your cart, and check out in just a few quick steps. Choose between convenient in-store pickup or let us handle the heavy lifting. From our shelves to your doorstep, skip the lines, shop your way, and spend more time on what matters most. With our rewards program, enjoy incredible savings and personalized offers every time you shop. Shop online now at strachanvantil.com or download our app today.
All right, let's go to traffic and weather. And traffic this morning in northwest Indiana generally looks pretty decent. The toll road, I-65, 8094, Klein Avenue, all look pretty decent. Going across the line into Illinois, there is an accident on the south end of the Dan Ryan, which is backing up now onto the Bishop Ford. Then when you get north of the Skyway, the Dan Ryan is now backed up from about 55th, which is Garfield Boulevard, I believe, all the way into the Circle. Not faring very well on the Stevenson, on the Eisenhower, or on the Kennedy. And the Kennedy is a disaster this morning both ways. Best bet to get around the city is probably going to take 294, but 294 is now slowing down when you get out to the Willow Springs area. So not a great day for traffic for some reason. Hopefully weather sounds a lot better. So, Lynette, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 39 degrees with highs of 53 and lows of 34. Should be mostly sunny and breezy today. And then tomorrow and Thursday we'll be having highs of 54 and lows of 37 with sun and areas of high clouds. And then Friday we'll be having highs of 58 and lows of 49, and it should be mostly sunny.
And I've got a message here from Paul Goddard, of course, Region News Source, and everybody knows Paul. He's a great guy. But he gave some explanation on the Northern Lights. So I'm going to read this. It's kind of lengthy, but it says, so the Northern Lights, if they happen tonight, the best time to see them would be between about 5 p.m. and 9 p.m. The absolute best view with the highest energy would be to be in the daytime today, but of course you wouldn't be able to see them. All right, so you should be able to see them this evening. The weather forecast sounds like it's promising. The Northern Lights are more frequent indeed than they have been in past years. We're seeing the Northern Lights because the sun is at its peak activity of an 11-year activity cycle known as the solar maximum. Did not know any of this. The sun's magnetic activity follows a 11-year cycle and basically says the best place, of course, to look when you go out tonight is look north and because of light pollution, aim your camera toward the sky and then take a look at your camera. But last night was truly amazing. I mean, it really was. It was remarkable. So get out and see the Northern Lights tonight. It's not going to be brutally cold. Not a bad evening to go out and see them and see something that you may not see for from what Paul Goddard is saying, and he knows a lot more about this than I do. We're in an 11-year cycle and we're at the peak, so that means that if you follow that thought process, I wouldn't get to see it for another 11 years, which means I'd be looking at almost 77 years old by the time it rolls around again. So, and Lynette will be pushing me in a wheelchair. Here, Tom, right there. You push me right off the pier at Whiting Lakefront Park. But seriously, 11 years from now, let's see, 11 years from now. Well, you'll still be young. You'll still be young in 11 years from now, but I won't. 845-1100 is the number to call. We've been talking about the Affordable Care Act, talking about the reopening of government, and we have callers. Good morning. You're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning, Tom. Thanks for taking my call. I listened to David Hochberg the other day, and I'm sure you're familiar with him, the mortgage guru.
I know who he is, but I haven't listened to him in some time. Okay,
they had him on I believe it was WGN, and they were talking about the 50-year mortgage, and he weighed in on it. he thinks it's another scheme that'll bring us back to the good old days of '07, '08 with the mortgage meltdown. And he said that was part of the problem. He also said that it's another distraction. And I was really surprised because he's usually never, he stays on track. He said it was just another distraction to keep us away from the Epstein dilemma and the cover-up that's been going on.
So can I just ask you, do you really believe that there is that much information out there on the Epstein files that we haven't heard? I mean, think about it for a minute. Both the Democrats and the Republicans have controlled the White House and have had access to those files. So
he also brought up the fact that we saw a whole table full of files that were brought out by Bondi, and then all of a sudden they were redacted. Also, he brought up the fact that it is Chase, one of the big banks, red flagged the government in 2018-19 that millions, close to billions, were being funneled to different channels out of our country to even parts of Russia. And he alluded to the fact that there is a big cover-up going on.
Well, there's a big cover-up, but hold on. That's what I want to get to. So I think the cover-up is more financial because Epstein was one of those guys that basically opened doors for a lot of businesses and a lot of people, and he had a lot of ties, including to Chase, as you pointed out, J.P. Morgan Chase, and I think that's what they're trying to hide. I think the horrible stories that you hear about sexual exploitation, I think most of that information probably that exists has been out there because if Joe Biden had a chance to expose Donald Trump as it relates to Jeffrey Epstein, he would have. That's pretty clear. I mean, they went after Trump with all kinds of things. So if they had the files on Epstein, they would have exposed it. And frankly, I think that Trump is now proving that he's no better. He's creating lawfare as well, and he's attacking the Democrats. So if there was something out there that he could attack any of his opponents, including the Clinton family, he would have done so. So I don't think that there's as much there from the salacious, horrible sexual exploitation as people think. I think what you're going to find out is that Epstein was basically putting together deals to funnel monies that should have never been funneled overseas and everywhere else. That's my own opinion. What do you think?
Well, that's true, too. And in a way, Hochberg also brought up that there was a big part of that, what you said, the money funneling, that was money laundering, he said, and it was a lot of blackmailing of and he said there are two presidents that are highly. He also brought up the fact that who bought his plane, the Lolita Express. He also brought that up. I was surprised that Hochberg said all this. People can look it up. I mean, who bought Jeffrey Epstein's plane? It's out there. And
who did buy? I'm sorry, I forget. Who bought it?
Trump.
Did he buy his plane?
Yes.
Go ahead. Continue.
Well, it was surprising that instead of just focusing in on his mortgage, basis and his mortgage, he went off on that tangent, and he seemed to be almost hitting on a lot of Marjorie Taylor Greene's points, and I just was surprised. He normally just stays on track with the finances.
Actually, I just looked it up, and it says that's not true.
Okay.
It says that the Lolita Express tail number N121JE was not bought by Donald Trump or Donald Trump's family. So they say that that's false. And this is coming from.
He stands corrected, and I stand corrected.
Well, I mean, this is
what
actually.
I heard yesterday.
Well, this is coming. This is coming from NPR. So I'm assuming. Oh, here the New York Times also says it's false. So that's not true. So once again, there's so much misinformation out there. You just wonder. I think that there's some truth to the money laundering. I think there's some truth to some dealings that a lot of people would be outraged over, and I think it's Democrats and Republicans both were filling their personal pockets with a lot of funds that basically didn't belong to them. I think there's all kinds of corruption involved. The sexual exploitation, the salacious parts of Jeffrey Epstein, I think they pretty much have been exposed. I think that there's probably some more information about guys like Bill Gates and some of the ones that have been targeted before, but I don't think you're going to find as much dirt as people think there is. Again, if you were Joe Biden, and it's obvious Biden did anything and everything he could to discredit Donald Trump. If they had that information, they would have exposed it. And now that Donald Trump is president, if he had the information to expose the Clintons, Biden's son, anybody else, he would have done it. And so nobody has done that, and I don't think it's the mutual assured destruction theory. I think it's basically that the information's not there. I think the bigger story on Epstein is the financial dealings. Those are the things that I worry about. He was obviously funneling supposedly a lot of money through Israel as well. There's a lot to be known about what was going on, and why they continue to refuse to release those files is beyond me. But going back to that 50-year mortgage, I agree with you. I think that's just a scam. It's going to create, as you said, the problems that occurred in 07. I think we're 07, 08. We're looking at the same problems once again. So I agree with you totally. And in fact, I'm going to have John Wilkening on the day before Thanksgiving. He's going to be on as my guest, and we're going to keep it maybe a little bit more lighthearted. But I'm going to ask him about the 50-year mortgage because he's an expert at that. So thanks for the call. Thank you so much.
One other troubling thing. What do you think of the coddling and the special treatment that Maxwell's getting?
I think that moving Maxwell to a different prison, I don't have a real opinion on that. I read that she says that it's much better, but she's still in prison. They simply moved her. And the argument is that if they moved her, she would talk. So, you know what? If I keep you behind bars and I keep you in a room that basically has bare walls, and you're refusing to talk, and we're trying to get to the truth, and I put you in a room where it's painted and it's got some photos on the walls, what's the real difference? I mean, you're still in prison. You're not out walking the streets. And so I don't know that made a huge difference to me personally to move her from one medium security prison to another. That she likes a little bit better, and in return she's supposedly talking for a change, and she's been, she's the only living person that, or probably the living person that knows more than anybody else. So if you're trying to get to the bottom of it, does that make a big difference to you that they moved her from one prison to another?
Yes, because as vile as a person as she is, I think that human trafficking, especially for children, is one of the lowest of
I
the
agree.
lows.
I totally agree with you there.
One of the biggest persons on the planet is the war criminal Putin. He's the biggest child trafficker, and that's another reason why they branded him a war criminal. But she should not be coddled. I think they're coddling her to keep her quiet, and if they pardon her, God help us.
Well, we're not talking. There's been no talk about pardon. There's been talk about.
Yes, there has.
Well, there's conjecture. There's been nothing. No, there's no. Again, she's filed it. She's requested a pardon, but that doesn't. People request pardons all day long. That doesn't mean anything. By the way, Dave from Gary. And Dave is no fan of Donald Trump. He just texted me and said the Lolita Express was actually bought by a private citizen who is a pilot. He is now suing the Epstein estate, saying that the plane was tainted and that he cannot resell it, but it was bought by a private citizen. So once again, you brought up some things, but some of the things that were brought up weren't true, and so. Again, I think that moving Maxwell from one prison to another doesn't really do a whole lot of damage, other than the fact that it probably gets us some more information that we don't have access to right now. Hey, thanks for the call.
I hope so.
845-1100. We have some additional callers. Good morning. You're on the air. Good morning. Hello. You're on the air. Hello. Well, we can hear that they have us. You'll have to call back. Sorry about that. 845-1100. Another caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Lost them.
Oh, we lost them. So, yeah, folks, when you call, I know you put your phone down and you kind of put us on speaker, but when we pick up, you got to be able to answer. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, Tom.
Yes.
I was just wondering about that Affordable Care Act. Wasn't that one of the reasons why St. Margaret's closed? Because of residents from Illinois using the system?
There were some problems with St. Margaret's as far as a variety of things. So part of it was the number of people that were coming in and demanding and needing medical assistance without insurance coverage. There were a lot of Medicaid patients going in there. But at the end of the day, you have to blame the operator as well. They didn't position St. Margaret's for the future. They had this large hospital that had at one point I think 400 beds, and then they contracted out part of those beds for long-term care facility, and that contract basically fell through, so they were back to having an oversized facility. There were a lot of problems, and also, one of the big problems in Northwest Indiana is competing with the Chicago hospitals. Look, Franciscan owned St. Margaret's. They own St. Anthony's and Crown Point. They built a new facility, and right down the street is the University of Chicago. So if you are having a heart problem or you're having you need cancer treatments, which are you going to go to? Are you going to go to St. Anthony's, or are you going to go to University of Chicago? Because University of Chicago is cutting edge. It's a research hospital. It's world renowned. Or you can go to St. Anthony's, and they'll tell you that you're going to get the same care, but are you? So, they learn those procedures from entities like University of Chicago, and I think that that's a big problem in competing when it comes to healthcare in Northwest Indiana. Is you've got the 800-pound gorillas across the street. You've got across the state line rather. You've got University of Chicago. You've got Northwestern, Loyola, UIC, Rush. Those are big, major hospitals, and they get lots of research money, and they're leaders in different practices of medicine. And it's very hard if you're a smaller group or an independent to compete with them.
Well, because I heard that the hospital that's affiliated with St. Margaret's in Hammond, in Dyer, they're supposed to close that one, I heard.
I've heard that too. I've heard that Dyer is on the chopping block. But, at the same time, I've heard that Dyer's been on the chopping block all the way back to when I was town manager of Cedar Lake, and that was the early 1980s. They've talked about Dyer closing. So I don't know. Yeah. I really don't know. I hope that's not the case. I hope that's not the case.
I got one for you.
Sure.
I was looking up on Google last night. I've been watching all this stuff about, and I got a neighbor that's, wants to transgender and stuff. I got a new word for transgender.
What is that?
Oysters.
Well,
oysters. You know why I said that? Oysters they can change their gender.
Right. I ran into a situation down in Florida. It was the most odd thing that I've ever come across, and I didn't mean to be disrespectful or rude or anything else, but I pulled up to the condo, and I'm going back in, and, you have to have a key or a code. And there's a couple standing there, and they had their back to me, and they said, we're trying to get in, we're trying to reach, we're trying to find, this real estate agent. They were going to look at one of the condominiums. And they were pressing the intercom button. And I walked up, and I said, oh, no problem. I can let you in. I know who you're looking for. And they turned around, and it was a man who was transitioning to a woman and a woman transitioning to a man. And I thought, now I must be wrong. This can't be right. And then later I saw the real estate agent, and she said to me, she looked at me and she said, So you saw what I saw. And I said, yeah, that was kind of interesting. And then she was telling me about it. And he had been a hockey player. He had been a professional hockey player, and he was transitioning to a woman. And he had surgeries to change his body parts. And that his wife was transitioning to be a male. And she was taking hormonal therapy. And I mean, you know, you feel a little uncomfortable when you're, again, it wasn't one, it was both. And it's like, okay. And again, I'm just walking up, I'm walking from the car, and I can hear them trying to talk through the intercom. So I just said, oh, no problem. I'll let you in. I know where you're going. And they turn around, and all of a sudden, you know, I kept my keys. I didn't drop them. So, well,
I guess you could call them confused oysters.
I guess you could, but
have a good one.
Hey, thanks so much for calling. 845-1100. Have additional callers? No, we don't. Okay, well, we've cleared out the callers all of a sudden. You know, this issue of Jeffrey Epstein and all the rumors that are out there. Again, I agree with the one caller. He's a great caller. Love when he calls in, but I agree with him that the sexual exploitation of minors is absolutely reprehensible, and Maxwell deserves to stay in prison the rest of her life. But I also think that we need to get some information out of someone, and she's the only person that appears to be alive that can give us that information. After all, one of the leading critics of Epstein, one of his victims, Virginia Giuffre, she passed away. Epstein supposedly killed himself, and Maxwell's the only link that we really have right now. So we need to get some information. So moving her from one prison to the other, as long as we don't let her out of prison, I think might be the answer to some of those questions. 845-1100, have some more callers.
We lost them.
We lost them. We keep on losing callers this morning. That's odd. And I just wonder because, as I said before, there's definitely something going on with the internet this morning. Even my phone is slow. So, and my phone is not going through the internet right now. But my computer is slow, my phone is slow. So it could be just an outage locally, but something's going on. Why don't we do this? Why don't we take a quick break? You're listening to the Morning Call on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. And it's Tom Dabertin. It's great to be here with you on the 12th of November. We'll be right back. By the way, it's 7:30 a.m., so if you've got to be somewhere, get ready to get there.
If you're thinking of finishing your basement, installing outdoor security cameras, or your business has plans to break ground on a new project in 2024, Powering Indiana, Lake County is your source for the region's best electricians. With IBEW, Local 697 electricians, you're choosing the highest level of safety and reliability. Visit poweringindiana.org today and ensure your project is in the hands of skilled professionals.
From the gas in your car to the heat in your home and the roads that you drive on, our work powers daily life. We are USW Local 71, the proud men and women of the Whiting Refinery. We're not just refinery workers. We're your friends and neighbors, raising our families here, shopping in the same stores, and cheering in the same stands. USW Local 71, powering the region because we are the region.
Are you searching for a college where you belong? Calumet College of St. Joseph wants to know you and give you the support you need to succeed. Are you worried about how you'll pay for your degree? 95% of our students receive financial aid, including scholarships and grants. Need some extra help with your classes? You'll benefit from our small class sizes, free tutoring, internship planning, faculty mentors, and so much more. Come experience our accepting, supportive college family for yourself. Schedule your campus visit and apply at ccsj.edu.
Tech Credit Union supports the essential role of union labor in building strong communities. That's why we offer hassle-free banking, financial empowerment, and a commitment to your success. Save for the future, handle life's challenges, and trust a partner that stands by hardworking union members. Tech Credit Union, the better option for you and your money. Visit techcu.org or call 800-276-8324. Tech Credit Union, supporting union families every step of the way.
At Strachan Van Til, we believe grocery shopping should be simple. Now, shopping is easier than ever with our new and improved website. Find what you need fast. Browse your favorite products, add them to your cart, and check out in just a few quick steps. Choose between convenient in-store pickup or let us handle the heavy lifting. From our shelves to your doorstep. Skip the lines, shop your way, and spend more time on what matters most. With our rewards program, enjoy incredible savings and personalized offers every time you shop. Shop online now at strachanvantil.com or download our app today.
All right, we're back, and of course, I got a number of texts during the break, and one from one of the smartest people I know, Paul Goddard, and Paul pointed out that the electrical storm that's causing an electrical storm is being caused by the same, basically the same forces that are causing the northern lights to be seen. That basically that could be disrupting some of the internet issues, and that makes total sense. So thank you, Paul. And then Mad Max sent a text and said, why has not a single girl come forward and named anyone other than Epstein? Well, that's not correct, Mike. The fact is that the Miami Herald, and I knew I had read this story, the Miami Herald in 2018 did a headline story with an interview with 80 women who basically were abused by Epstein between 2001 and 2006, and they did name several names, and that's how some of the names like Bill Gates have come out and others. And then basically there's an attorney representing 200 survivors in various lawsuits, an attorney by the name of Brad Edwards, and he's also released names of some of the other people other than Jeffrey Epstein, but they all blame Epstein and Ms. Maxwell for recruiting them. So there you have it. So there is a lot more than just one name out there. 845-1100. I mean, we started to talk about Epstein. We started to talk about the reopening of government, which I think is just a no-brainer at this point. The Democrats, I understand you were out there, you were supposedly out there for a cause. You claimed you were, but at this point, you know what? It already passed the Senate. You may as well just vote for it. It's going to pass the House. And if it were me, knowing that the American people are tired of the shutdown and tired of the impact that it's having and the impact that it has on some of the least fortunate in this country, let's just go ahead and refund government and get back to business. To me, it doesn't make sense to vote against it. Your vote's not going to count anyway. 845-1100 is the number. We've got several callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Oh, hey, Tom. What's going on? Brad Gimbel here.
Good. How are you, Brad?
I'm hanging in there. I guess I'm just kind of confused that a $500,000 house in 2021 was a 3% interest rate and a $2,100 payment would only cost you $257,000 in interest. But in 2025, that same house on a 50-year mortgage is going to cost you $1 million in interest. We just have to ask ourselves, who's pocketing that interest? The banks.
Absolutely.
And nobody's saying anything about that. It's the banks. So I don't want to hear anything. They're just completely bamboozling everybody with a 50-year mortgage. But what's more important to me and hits home is that I guess I have a problem with Trump at this point. I want everybody to listen up, all of you big Republicans with your loud mouths and you're kissing his butt from the start here, but never admitting to anything that he has a fault at. I am not a fan of Laura Ingraham. I think she's kind of a radio sellout in a lot of ways. But did you get to see the interview with her with Trump?
I saw part of it. I agree with you. I'm not a huge Laura Ingraham fan.
Right. And I just would say that go watch it. Because from a tech perspective, and having been involved with tech for nearly 30 years, that guy got up there. The new Mr. Crypto, by the way, which he went on and on for years and years and had his entire base telling you that crypto was worthless and nothing was going to be done about it. It will never be used. It'll never replace the dollar with a stable coin. I'll never hire Scott Bessent, who used to work for George Soros, who's now our treasury, who's going to basically devalue the dollar through stable coins. Just look up exactly what I'm saying and it'll all come into play. But him talking Laura Ingraham, Trump is saying we need more H-1B visa people because we don't have the manpower or the smart in the United States. We invented this tech here. And you know what? That's why this guy's a bozo clown. He's a clown.
I agree with you on that was an egregious comment by him to say that no, we need the H-1 visas because we don't have people intelligent enough in the United States. We have to look. I get the point of the H-1 visas, right? I get that, and you do too. But for him to make that blanket statement, we don't have the people, and that's what he said last night. He didn't say, well, it helps us attract intelligent people that can help us with our research. He said we don't have the people, right? That was his comment. He didn't say we needed more people. We don't have the people. And that was a bozo comment to make. I agree with you.
You bet. We have the people. And don't let him fool you. He's been part of a grand plan from way back to turn the U.S. dollar into a digital currency, and nobody will admit his fault in it. He told you not to buy it, not to touch it, not to do anything. And now his family and his companies own more than anyone. They own a ton of it. So him saying that there aren't people in the United States, you know what? Why didn't he talk about Coca-Cola recently being caught for not hiring people due to their skin color or their background or whatever? That's the problem. And until he goes after that, and until he admits that crypto was a con by him or he was involved in it, then you know what? The guy does not get my vote. And he's not getting my support anymore either. Because what he did is he actually devalued an investment that I made in it over 10 years ago. And he's complicit in it. And now he's going to tell you, when all of his buddies in finance, like T. Rowe Price, PricewaterhouseCoopers, State Street, Vanguard, you name it, they're all in on it, buying crypto. Now that it's all set up and his crony buddies can make money as well as his sons, now he's going to turn around to the public and say, well, you might want to have some in your coffers. Now I want anybody out there who's Mr. or Mrs. Republican to come debate me on this. And I want you to come with some facts and some backup because you know what?
Right.
I'm up for an argument.
He has changed his view on crypto. And you're right.
Absolutely.
During his first administration, he basically said that he had serious concerns about it. He felt that it was a competition to the U.S. dollar. He said all those things. And then all of a sudden now, crypto's great. And the comment about the H-1 visas just didn't make any sense at all. In fact, Laura Ingraham, who is kind of she's a lapdog for him, okay, for most of the interview, she took exception to the comment. She was like, wait, no, what did you say? And he's like, nope, I said what I said. And, she let it go. So, hey, thanks so much, Brad.
He doubled down.
Absolutely.
You got it. He doubled down. Have a good morning. I will call back with more commentary soon. So bring it on, Republican boy.
All right. Thanks, Brad. 845-1100 is the number to call. We've got additional callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Tom. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. The gentleman brought up something that needs to be addressed that hasn't been talked about on the airways. He mentioned trafficking. You mentioned, and this has to do with the border, but not what the people are going to think out there. You're the only one that I heard on these airways talked about when the people were crossing through the Mexican border. Those are not Mexicans entering this country. They're from other Central American countries that are entering this country. But the reason I'm bringing this up, Tom, I don't know if you're aware, but in the last 2 weeks, 2 to 3 mayors in Mexico have been assassinated, one being decapitated by the drug cartels. And one of the mayors, the first one that was assassinated, he was begging and pleading with the president of Mexico that he needs help with the drug cartels. They're basically overrunning his city. He got no help, and he was eventually murdered.
So you're right about that. You're right about those stories, and they really haven't gotten a lot of coverage. And so there has been assassination. I just want to repeat what you said. There's been the assassination of several mayors in Mexico, basically at the hands of drug cartels, because they won't cooperate with those drug cartels, and they're being assassinated. And it's really a story that's just being ignored, not just in the United States, but globally. I mean, the big news sources, I mean, even Reuters has ignored it. And to me, it's astonishing. And you're right about the people coming across the border. Look, it wasn't Mexicans. It was people who largely were coming from other countries, many of whom I understand they were coming because they were refugees from the strife that exists in Central America and South America. But there is some truth that they were also opening up their prisons. Maduro and others were sending a lot of really bad people here. And my biggest fear was not the people coming from Central America or South America. The biggest fear of all are the people that were coming from Asia and
100%.
from the Middle East, from Afghanistan, from places like that. Those are the people that I worry about the most, because we have the potential, at least, of having sleeper cell terrorists in this country because of all the people that came across that border unchecked. Those are the people that worry me the most.
And then the thing is, even Chinese were coming through that border, and we bring it up. You sound like the crazy uncle, that had one martini too many. But I really do worry about that, and it just. See, people don't also understand that even during the normal elections in Mexico, there are it's common knowledge. There's assassinations just through the election process, and it just even prior to what I'm speaking to you today on this subject, it's common. It's just common, and my point being, it seems like our nation seems to waste money on other areas, but when we have an open border right just to the south of us, why we are not concentrating on that area? Because one of the mayors, like I said, go ahead.
So we have closed the border, though. That's the good news. We've closed the border, but here's my question, and you and I have talked about this. I remember a couple months ago, you and I talking about the people that came across the border. Why hasn't the Trump administration, who made issue with all these people from China, for example, that you just mentioned and I mentioned, that came across, you haven't seen, you hear about the fact that they've, that these people, their whereabouts are unknown. Why haven't you seen more arrests or heard about more arrests of those individuals? Those people that came from Afghanistan, for example, that were certainly questionable. You don't hear about those arrests, and I just don't totally understand why. I mean, you do hear about the criminal element, the different gangs from Venezuela. You hear about them, and you hear about some drug dealers and people that have been caught up in some of the sexual exploitation convicts that are here, and those are all great arrests. Don't get me wrong. But what you haven't heard is about the people from those other countries being arrested, and why isn't that?
Right, and that's what I meant. I misspoke. Yes, you're right. The border is closed. I meant once we close the border, from that point, why aren't we doing more to curtail, like the gentleman mentioned, the sex trafficking? And it's child sex trafficking as well. And you're right, the border is closed. But that's where the cartels, when they do make money in addition to drugs, it is with the sex trafficking. So you're right, but
there are a lot of unaccounted children that came across that border. There are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of children that came to this country, and you really truly wonder. And when you talk to people who, in law enforcement and others about sex trafficking of minors, there are some stories that really cause you the hair on the back of your neck to stand up, and you just hope and pray they're not true. But I believe I believe that a lot of the claims that are out there do exist. That a lot of those children basically were caught up. They were sent here as drug mules,
exactly,
and then they're basically sold into a sex trade. And if you don't think that sex trafficking of minors doesn't exist in the United States, you are totally mistakenly wrong. There are plenty of law enforcement experts that say otherwise, and you just don't hear about a focus on those areas. I think that if the focus, for example, I mentioned this before, the woman from Honduras that I met down in Florida that came here legally, and she said, take a look at Florida. We don't have the problems here because law enforcement focuses on getting rid of the bad people. And there are plenty of people that are here probably illegally, but they're just, they're minding their own business and they're working and it's not a problem. And she was talking about the problems that exist in the Chicago area where people are being shielded and protected even though they're bad people. And she said, why don't you just go get rid of the bad people and not worry about everybody else? And you don't hear... Again, you don't hear enough about the sex traffickers and some of those people that came here. You're right about that.
And let's not forget Eastern Europe. I know
some bad people from Eastern Europe too.
You have the trucker that calls up. A lot of from I'll be honest, Yugoslavia. They got into during the trucking in this country, illegal. Then you get on the roads, and then you have what you have. You know what I'm saying? The Sikh driver in California. Another instance where it's our troubles are many. Our troubles are many, but it seems like we focus on one area only, and then it gets to be a Republican Democrat issue, but it seems like we never solve anything. It's just like, and I'll get off after this. It's like we constantly bring up numbers. Well, what about January 6th? What about January 6th? And I looked up the numbers on that, Tom. Do you realize 1,500 people have the number? 1,500 have been prosecuted from January 6th, but we keep bringing it up as if nothing was done. 1,500 people. Federal charges, and 80-90% of them were prosecuted. So it was taken care of. But to hear some of the people on this airways, they act like we did nothing. But what about the Black Lives Matter Summer of Love? How many people were prosecuted for that?
Very few. And I witnessed it, as again, I brought up many times, I witnessed it in person. I saw the preparations and plans for it. So, I mean, I find it impossible to believe that they didn't know who was behind some of that, and they couldn't find anybody. I mean, Lori Lightfoot. Well, we're going to look for them, but the insurance companies are going to pay for everything. Yeah, that worked out really great because now we have 30% vacancy on North Michigan Avenue.
Exactly, I seen that figure yesterday, as a matter of fact. But I hear, oh no, it's coming back. 30% vacancy. That's a lot.
Yeah, it dropped 3% vacancy. The vacancy rate dropped from 33% to 30% over the last 3 years. And they hailed that as a turnaround for downtown Chicago. That's not a turnaround. That's basically one building got leased. Hey, thanks so much for the call. 845-1100, have some additional callers. Good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, Tom.
Good morning.
I'll be real brief. On the St. Margaret's, I had seen in the newspaper maybe 6-9 months ago that they were going to turn it into a mental health facility slowly to phase it out. And I'm not sure what year it would be completed, but I was thinking
You're talking about Dyer.
Or so.
You're talking
the
about
one in Dyer.
Yes, Dyer. Okay.
Yeah, because, yeah.
Oh, that's right, because they call it right.
Go with that one, and that's the last I had seen, so that's about it.
Yeah, Dyer, of course, always had that one wing that handled mental health.
Yeah.
And that was supposedly, I'd heard some rumors. I didn't read the article that you did, but I heard some rumors that was the plan. I just think that there is a need for what I call immediate care throughout Lake County. So I certainly don't want to see hospitals close. But I think
I don't either, and I think a lot of it was many people moved out of the subdivision near 81st in Sheffield or Hart Street there. Steger Road is there by Illinois. St. James closed. Once St. James closed, sometimes I can count 40 ambulances a day if I'm up early coming in from that direction, and folks have moved out of that subdivision because they got tired of hearing it.
Well, and St. James was owned by the same operator, and
Yep.
I think that the problem is sometimes is, I get it. You know, healthcare facilities want to be everything to everyone, and people that go there want that convenience. They want everything that they need to be done there. But there's a lot to be said for providing basic healthcare at a hospital and providing, trying to compete with the 800-pound gorillas across the state line.
Right.
You can't compete. In University of Chicago, look, I've told this story before. I called after I was diagnosed with a certain condition, and I called for called other facilities that are nationally known. And the one said to me, well, your doctor basically wrote the textbook on the situation that you have, so why would you be coming here? So you've got, and University of Chicago, Northwestern will tell you sometimes, we're not the best. You should try Cleveland Clinic. You should try Mayo.
Yeah.
They don't have a problem with that. And Cleveland Clinic and Mayo and some of those facilities will tell you that University of Chicago or Northwestern or Loyola or Rush are the best. So they have like less competition at their level than we have at this local level, where you've got local hospitals that are trying to tell you that they can do just the same thing that's done at University of Chicago or Northwestern, and that's just not true because they can't compete with the research that's done there. It's a difficult situation to be in, and I don't know enough about running those hospitals.
I don't really have a Times subscription. Maybe you can find it and read when they're going to phase it out.
Yeah, I'm going to take a look for that. I'm going to take a
Yeah,
look for it.
I'm
The problem
unsure
is
of the
my
date, and things may have changed too, but that was the last recall.
Yeah, the problem
I
is
have,
I'm just having a difficult time getting to the internet this morning, so I'm going to try and pull that up during a break and see if I can find out some
I
more
got caller
information.
ID issues only.
Really?
Whatever state you're calling from, that's the ID. I'm not getting the name. I don't know.
Well, it's just taking forever.
High-tech.
It's taking
The
forever.
more high tech, the worse it gets.
Yeah, it's taking forever for anything to load this morning. So there you go. Hey, thanks so much
Well,
for
you
the
have
call.
a great day.
You as well. Thank you for calling. 845-1100 is the number to call, and it's probably time for us to take another break. So let's do that. You're listening to The Morning Call with Tom Dabertin on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM, and we'll be right back.
Life's biggest challenges don't come with a warning. When legal issues arise, whether it's a car accident, personal injury, criminal charge, or representing you before municipal boards, you need a trusted advocate on your side. At Westland & Bennett, we listen first because your story matters. We provide strategic, personalized legal solutions to protect your rights, your freedom, and your future. Peace of mind starts with a conversation. Call 219-440-7550 today for a free consultation.
Becoming a truck driver doesn't have to be complicated. At Schneider, we make it easy to get your commercial driver's license and start your new career. With our CDL apprenticeship training, you'll get paid to become a truck driver in just 5 to 6 weeks and have a Schneider driving job waiting for you when you've completed the program. Plus, during training, Schneider will provide transportation, lodging, and meals at no cost to you. Ready to get your career on the road? Learn more and apply today at SchneiderJobs.com. That's SchneiderJobs.com.
At Strachan Van Til, we believe grocery shopping should be simple. Now, shopping is easier than ever with our new and improved website. Find what you need fast. Browse your favorite products, add them to your cart, and check out in just a few quick steps. Choose between convenient in-store pickup or let us handle the heavy lifting. From our shelves to your doorstep, skip the lines, shop your way, and spend more time on what matters most. With our rewards program, enjoy incredible savings and personalized offers every time you shop. Shop online now at strachanvantail.com or download our app today.
Hard Rock Casino Northern Indiana wants to make you a winner every Friday in October with our $500K Double Down giveaway. Earn entries each week to boost your chance of winning a guaranteed $50,000. Then you can choose to walk away or risk half for a shot at $100,000 in cash. Do you dare to double down? Only at Hard Rock Casino Northern Indiana, just off Exit 6, I-80-94. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-9-WITH-IT.
Siri, read me that text.
Sorry, I can't complete your request.
You want me to read that?
No, I got it.
Construction zone.
I see it.
Watch it! Oh my God! You're gonna hit him!
Oh, fuck!
When driving in a construction zone, be smart, be alert, be in the zone.
This is Brian Short, Business Manager for the Indiana Laborers District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save lives. We're all in this together.
A message from Indiana's District Council of Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
Wow, guess what? You are listening to WJOB 1230 AM and 104.7 FM in Hammond, Indiana, and it is 8 a.m. exactly. So if you were supposed to be somewhere, you're running a little late this morning. And let's take a look at traffic and then weather. Traffic this morning, Northwest Indiana, really not bad. Not a lot of issues. But when you get across the state line, the Bishop Ford all the way now through the Ryan is just a parking lot. When you get past about Lake Calumet, you're just going to sit there all the way through to downtown, and it's not going to get any better if you're going on the Kennedy Expressway. It is a parking lot now north of the Edens Expressway, Stevenson's looking bad, the Eisenhower's looking bad, and even 294, which I usually suggest as alternative route, is backing up from about the Eisenhower going north. So I just hope if you're going somewhere today, if you're leaving town, you're trying to get to O'Hare, boy, good luck, because it's really going to be difficult. Midway's not too bad. You can still get there, but trying to get from Northwest Indiana or the southern suburbs to O'Hare is going to be really difficult today. With that, let's visit with Lynette and see how weather looks.
Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 41 degrees with highs of 53 and lows of 34. Should be mostly sunny and breezy. And then tomorrow we'll be having highs of 54 and lows of 37 with sun in areas of high clouds. And then Friday we'll be having highs of 58 and lows of 49 and should be mostly sunny.
All right. And in reference to the last caller about Franciscan Health out in Dyer, they did announce on November 21st, 2024, that they were going to basically turn the Dyer facility into a mental health campus. Inpatient emergency and surgical services will move to their Munster campus. So she is totally correct about that. It says that the transition to behavioral health will be completed in late 2027, at which time the emergency, surgical, and inpatient rehabilitation services will move to Franciscan's expanded Munster campus. Which it says is about 2 miles away. That might be 2 miles away as the crow flies, but I think drive time it's a lot more than 2 miles. But I get it. It's about 2 miles if you were able to fly between the locations. So 845-1100, have a couple of callers waiting, so let's go to those callers. Good morning, you're on the air.
Hey, Tom. I guess if I understand it right, in order to open a government, it's got to go back to a vote in the House now. That's correct, isn't it?
Yes, it goes back to a vote, and that vote should occur this evening.
Now, how do you think our Congressman Mervan's going to vote on this?
You know, that remains to be seen. I'm going to throw this suggestion out. I'm not going to advise Frank Mervan on what he should do, but I think if I were Frank Mervan, I would vote to reopen the government. I think most Americans want to see government reopen at this point. I think that they're tired of the shenanigans going on between the Democrats and the Republicans. Mervan says that he is bipartisan, so I think it's probably a good chance for him to show that he's taking a bipartisan stance. I know that at the same time he's going to receive immense pressure from the Democratic Party right now. Hakeem Jeffries is dug in saying that they're not going to support reopening the government because their agenda hasn't been met. But it's a foregone conclusion. Look, the Republicans do have enough votes to do it, and it's already passed the Senate with the help of 7 Democrats and 1 independent. So you're not going to lose anything. And if you're Frank Mervan, I think you basically should look at where the vote's going to lie and vote to reopen government. So what happens if he votes to reopen government? What, the Democratic Party is going to try and primary him? That's not going to happen. All right.
It's debatable, I think.
Well, who would they primary against him? Who would they put
find
in
somebody? You know that. Well, the thing is, I think depending on how Frank Mervan votes on this, tells you everything you ever need to know about Frank Mervan.
I agree with you there. I think this is real. This is going to be a real test for him because he has posted repeatedly that he wants to be a bipartisan voice in the House of Representatives. So this is a good one for him to get involved on and take a stand. Excuse me, but I don't know where he's going to end up.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it'll come down to, is he really wanting to serve the people of this district, or is he just a career politician? That's what it boils down to, I think.
Well, again, look, I get it. He's in a difficult position because he's gotten a lot of support financially from the Democratic Party. It's going to be very, very difficult for him to buck them. But at the same time, primarying a Democratic incumbent in a heavily Democratic district is a complete waste of time. If the Democrats think, if AOC or Jeffries or somebody thinks they're going to get a candidate that's going to knock Mervan out in the primary, that's a joke. And all they're going to do is spend a lot of money, which most likely the Democratic Party is going to have to replenish, so why bother?
Well, personally, the way I feel about it, the Democratic Party is a monolith. The Democratic Party is the be all end all. The candidate, the people, the congressmen, senators in that party, even AOC or whatever, they kowtow to what the majority of that delegation wants. They make people, they break people. Let's face it, AOC couldn't. If she was going by her talent, she couldn't be a dog catcher. I mean, she's brainless, but the fact is that she's on a national level now because she's been promoted by that same Democratic Party. That's how they roll.
Well, when it comes down to qualification for government, it's really sad, isn't it, that and we don't have a qualifications test, nor should we, but we elect some people that you have to wonder sometime. I mean, AOC, for example, she was a bartender. She's kind of a fraud when she talks about her background, and she was basically Sandy Cortez, totally different personality and person than she portrays herself to be now. But there's plenty of examples on both sides. I mean, the Republicans have quite a few. What was the name of the guy that they actually threw out of the House of Representatives that was such a joke? There are individuals on both sides. I think
I'm not saying Republicans are much better by a long shot. It's just that the way that they've already the Democrats have demonstrated during this whole government shutdown that they operate as a monolith, as a they whatever that their delegation wants to push, that's what gets pushed. And the idea that these people are representatives of their districts, I don't buy that for a minute. I think that, and as far as finding somebody to primary, Frank, I think they'd probably find somebody in about 10 minutes.
Well, but let's go back to what you said about the monolithic approach of the Democratic Party. Isn't that the same? Isn't that same claim true for the Republicans? I mean, the Republicans vote together. There's total cohesion in where they're voting together. So
I don't know. It's you've got a lot of the Republicans. By and large, I would say you're right. But there's also a lot of schism in the Republican Party. You got the Marjorie Taylor Greenes fighting against the more establishment type of people. It's more obvious in the Republican Party. But the Democrats, you go with the hierarchy. Nancy Pelosi or Hakeem Jeffries. You better kowtow to them, or you're not going to be around long.
Well, yeah, but take a look at Fetterman. Take a look at Fetterman on the Democratic side, or even Dick Durbin on the Democratic side. That was a real
Fetterman
surprise.
was just on The View the other day, and they excoriated him. And don't be surprised if they don't try to primary him.
Oh, I think they will try and primary him. I think they'll try and primary him, and I think the Republicans are going to go after him as well. So I think he's got problems, but. Rand Paul from the Republican side, of course, he votes somewhat independently at times, although I disagree with him on his vote on reopening government. I think that he's somewhat of an idealist and lacks, the realism of the immense hurt that this shutdown was imposing on the average person that works for government. There's a lot of good government employees, and they deserve to get a paycheck.
Right. Yeah, it's a shame, but it just goes to show you that there's an agenda here, and that they don't care if they burn the whole country down to get what they want. And the problem is they've got I'm talking about the Democrats now. They got the media in their back pocket. They'll push any propaganda they want. But on the Republican side, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying by a long shot I like the Republicans, but that's more like herding cats on that side. They've got. It's more obvious that on their side there's more independent thinkers in that party than are on the Democratic side.
I'll say this much. The Republicans generally are better at articulating their opinions and making them sound personal than the Democrats, who the Democrats have a tendency to speak, and you're right, they speak with one voice. You'll see an interview with a congressman or a senator, and they will quote, well, Senator Schumer says, Nancy Pelosi says, Hakeem Jeffries says, where the Republicans generally show up on those talk shows and they say, well, this is what I want to do, even though it's the same talking points that every other Republican is using. So I agree with you. They're just a little better trained at personalizing the message.
As far as Fetterman, actually, to tell you the truth, I like this guy. He's the kind of Democrat I could vote for. I wish there were more of them. I do not understand why. Well, I guess I do sort of understand. Like I say, the way that the Democrats have been taken over by the socialist movement, that they are in lock. I mean, they've got a goal they're going after. But guys like Fetterman are a throwback. They're actually more independent thinking Democrats. If there were more people like Fetterman around, that party would be a lot more palatable to people like me, I'll tell you.
Well, I think the socialist takeover by Bernie Sanders and AOC and the others, I think is a true threat to the base of the Democratic Party, myself included. I mean, look, I'm a lifelong Democrat. I don't agree with any of those views, any of those extremist views, and I think it's going to be very problematic for the Democratic Party unless they figure out a way to silence some of the extremism that's coming out of the Democratic Party, no doubt about it. Hey, thanks so much for the call.
Okay, Tom. Thank you.
Have a good day. 845-1100 is the number. We have additional callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, good morning, Tom. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Hey, Been interested in a lot of the conversations you've been having this morning, but the one thing that got me was when you referred to Indiana Congressional District number 1 as heavily Democratic.
Well, historically,
I don't believe that. Okay, historically, but yeah, I don't believe it. I just saw I know it's probably a right-leaning poll, Red Eagle Politics, but it had Indiana District 1 R+1 in the most recent poll. And I was like, okay, am I just like brainwashed here? Am I just reading, like drinking the red Kool-Aid? And so I went to an AI and I typed in, is first Indiana Congressional District still heavily Democratic? And it came back and said, no. In summary, the first Indiana Congressional District is no longer heavily Democratic in practical or electoral terms. It is now a competitive seat. And I just wonder if that's not why Frank Mervan is now like, I'm more middle of the road. Really? That's not really what you were doing when you were following in lockstep with Speaker Pelosi.
Well, this is the challenge for this evening, isn't it? Because you're right, and I agree with you. It's far more balanced than it has been in the past. It's become far more Republican than it was historically. I still think that it leans Democratic, however, because if you take a look at how it's drawn, so it's Lake and Porter County, but then the
Let's
northern
just be
half.
honest, the Democrats get more stolen votes out than the Republicans
Well,
do.
the northern half of LaPorte County, though, is Democrat. So you've got Democratic base in the north end of Lake County and in the north end of LaPorte County. The Republicans, of course, are strong throughout Porter County and the south half of Lake County. But I agree with you. I think it's in certainly in more play than it has been at any time in its recent past. But for Mervan, this is quite a predicament tonight, because if he votes to reopen government, it shows that he is living up to his commitment to be bipartisan and doing what's best for the American people. And I think it's very hard to argue that reopening government doesn't make sense. I noticed that a lot of my friends who are staunch Democrats who posted a week ago, reopen government already, have all stayed off the social media the last 2 days because they realize that this is a real difficult situation for.
Well, and did
Mervan
you see Senator Fetterman's response to Sonny Hoskins asking,
I did.
How could you do this? How could you vote against the Democrats? He actually spelled it out. This is Frank Mervan's situation too. He's in Pennsylvania. He's not in deep blue New York or deep blue New Jersey or deep blue California. He's in Pennsylvania. It's always a toss-up state. Always.
Right.
He has to be middle of the road.
But isn't that the way Congress is supposed to work? Aren't our U.S. senators from the state of Indiana supposed to vote to represent the will of the people who elected them? Isn't that what Frank Mervan and other congressmen are supposed to do? They shouldn't be sitting there. I thought that was such a stupid question by Sonny Austin, making it sound like Fetterman should be doing the bidding of the National Democratic Party. He represents the people of Pennsylvania. He doesn't represent the people of California. He represents the people of Pennsylvania. And I thought he had a great response. By the way, I wanted to ask you. I'm glad you called, because I was going to call you actually off the air today. After our conversation last week, there are 2 books. I wondered if you've read either of them. One is called 1983, Reagan and Andropov and the World on the Brink by Taylor Downing, and the other one is The Brink, President Reagan and the Nuclear War Scare of 1983 by Mark Ambinder. Have you read either of those?
The Brink does ring a bell. I have read several books in that genre, and I think I did read that one. Pretty fascinating stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, sometime after Thanksgiving, I thought I'd give you a call and see if you'd come in one morning and let's talk about that, because I think people really need to know. And then I figured, well, I'm going to add these books to my Christmas list for this year.
So, Tom, there's one story in one of those books that I'll share with you that I thought was fascinating. I didn't know anything about this until I read it. The Soviets were so paranoid that and we were back channeling. We had to back channel, I think, through Sweden. I think that was the back channel.
Right. I think you're right.
And the Swedish told the Soviets, the Soviet leadership, look, the sign that there is going to be no war or no, invasion is that Margaret Thatcher will wear an all-white suit. And I don't know, did you ever hear that story?
I heard something about that she was going to wear a dress or some attire. I've heard a little bit of the story, so vaguely, but I didn't know it was an all-white dress or all-white suit.
So that's how convinced they were that we were ready to invade them. It just blows my mind that, we were so damn close.
Well, and Andropov, though, he was completely out of it by the end there. He literally, they were kind of keeping him alive. And he had this, he had this hellish belief that he was going to go down and, basically go down in a nuclear fire. He didn't care what happened. There's a lot of interesting things. There was, didn't they call it Operation Orion or something? There was a name that they were calling, the Russians or the Soviets were referring to, trying to gather information at the time about the United States and NATO and what they were up to. I'm
trying to remember Operation Orion right now. It's not coming to mind. But
there's a book called The Spy and the Traitor, and it's about Oleg, what's his name, that basically turned on the Soviets and became a spy for the West. And I read that book 2 years ago. And it talks all about this period of time where basically the Soviets are obsessed with the idea that the United States and NATO are going to launch this bolt out of the blue attack on the Soviet Union. And they've basically, they started out with the premise that was the truth, and then they went out and searched for information to basically justify their belief.
I think one of the other things that was a big factor in all this is that the handwriting was already on the wall in 1983. They were out of money. They were bankrupt.
Right.
They had been spending heavily all across Southeast Asia, into the Eastern European theater. They were broke, and I think they were just willing to burn it all down.
Well, they were, and that's what's really terrifying. But, there's another incident, and when you're on, I want to talk about it. There's a book called Command and Control, and I brought it up several times. It's about the 1980 accident where the Titan II missile blew up in its silo in Arkansas and could have obliterated the American Southeast with a 9 megaton nuclear weapon. And in that book, it talks about how basically in 1961, John F. Kennedy asked the Air Force to prepare plans for a bolt out of the blue against the Soviet Union. And it was Curtis LeMay who stood up and said, "You are totally out of your mind. Nuclear war is not winnable." And it was the beginning of the end of Curtis LeMay. That's when Bobby Kennedy and others started planning stories about LeMay and trying to ruin his reputation and basically push him out as the commanding officer of Strategic Air Command.
Yeah, I think that was the Damascus accident. I think
Damascus accident. Yes, absolutely.
So speaking of other obscure things, did you know that part of Bill Clinton's Secret Service detail died in an airplane crash?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Colorado, or I want to say it was Colorado. It could be. It was like a ski resort town. But I always thought that was intriguing. 9 members of his detail died in one plane crash.
I never heard about that, but you mentioned...
And knowing more and more about Hillary Clinton now, I just wonder, what kind of intriguing story could come from that.
Well, you mentioned Bill Clinton, and part of the Damascus incident, it gets interesting because the President of the United States at the time is Jimmy Carter. And Carter is asked, should, by the Air Force, they basically say, we need to notify the governor of Arkansas what's going on. And Carter basically says, I don't trust him, don't. And he basically, they decide not to tell Bill Clinton, who's the governor of Arkansas at the time, about what's going on with in the Damascus incident, which of course is this explosion that, by the way, if it wasn't for Curtis LeMay, we would not have an American Southeast.
One little intriguing rabbit hole I'll share with you about the early 1980s. We all know that the media is propagandized, maybe even like at the behest of governments. Now, I didn't realize that back in the 80s or 70s. Did you? I mean, maybe people suspected it, but digging deep into the rabbit hole of like the 1983 episode, I also recall there was a really big open air concert culture in Europe at the time. And I was amazed by it. It was like a 18-year-old kid just being amazed by all this great music being offered like almost weekly in all these little, small burgs and like military base towns and stuff. And come to find out, there was a CIA initiative to spread culture around the country. It was around Eastern or Western Europe to kind of impress upon the Soviets and the communists that their culture was failed.
No, I find that fascinating, and you're absolutely right. I mean, there were all kinds of efforts that were going on in the early 1980s that we weren't aware of. But the news media, if you think back, even in the 1980s, the early 80s, they were focused on. Remember the Pershing missile issue, for example, intermediate range nuclear missiles.
Well, Tom, I was posted on a Pershing 2 missile site.
Right, I was going to say, weren't you actually on one of those sites?
Yeah.
And back in the States, though, at the time, they made it sound like, Reagan was just out of his mind. He was out of control, pushing the Pershing 2s, and so is Thatcher.
He should not have his finger on the button.
Yes, and it ends up that basically it was a great chess move because it, as you said, it brought the Soviets to their knees. They realized they couldn't compete. They couldn't compete because those Pershing 2s would have hit Moscow in a matter of 5 or 7 minutes.
Yeah,
and they had nothing. They had nothing that they could launch.
And they were mobile, so they didn't have like one specific location to target. They had to have eyes in the sky all the time to know where they were at.
Yeah, it was, again, it was a very interesting time. But, again, I look forward to you coming on as a guest and us doing a deep dive because people need to know what really went on. And, again, the fact that we came so close to nuclear annihilation in the fall of 1983 and people generally don't realize it is amazing. And I think when we talk, we'll throw in the Damascus incident because, again, that was an accident that, boy, by the grace of God, we didn't blow up a huge chunk of the U.S. So,
yeah.
Hey, thanks so much for calling.
Have a great day. Bye.
I am being given the signal by Lynette that it's time for a break, so we're going to take a break. You're listening to the Morning Call on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM in Hammond, Indiana. We're going to be right back after these commercial announcements. And, hey, we are here until 9 a.m. this morning, so if you want to call during the break. We'll take your call right away.
Introducing Powers Health, a health system with a new name and a strong legacy of caring for families in our community. One with a tradition of advanced specialized services and a vision for the future. One with a commitment to medical excellence and compassionate care. Everything we do, everything we believe, Powers Health.
Looking for a place to enjoy great food and great games? Head to Doc's Barbecue in Dyer. Indulge in Southern-style hickory smoked meats served in a fun, welcoming atmosphere. Want to catch the latest local Jet TV basketball games? Just ask and they'll have it on one of their 15 big screen TVs. Whether you're here for the food, the fun, or the hoops, Doc's has something for everyone. Stop by Doc's Smokehouse on Calumet Avenue in Dyer, where flavor and sports come together.
Life's biggest challenges don't come with a warning. When legal issues arise, whether it's a car accident, personal injury, criminal charge, or representing you before municipal boards, you need a trusted advocate on your side. At Westland & Bennett, we listen first because your story matters. We provide strategic, personalized legal solutions to protect your rights, your freedom, and your future. Peace of mind starts with a conversation. Call 219-440-7550 today for a free consultation.
At Strachan Van Til, we believe grocery shopping should be simple. Now, shopping is easier than ever with our new and improved website. Find what you need fast. Browse your favorite products, add them to your cart, and check out in just a few quick steps. Choose between convenient in-store pickup or let us handle the heavy lifting. From our shelves to your doorstep. Skip the lines, shop your way, and spend more time on what matters most. With our rewards program, enjoy incredible savings and personalized offers every time you shop. Shop online now at strachanvantil.com or download our app today.
From the gas in your car to the heat in your home and the roads that you drive on, our work powers daily life. We are USW Local 71, the proud men and women of the Whiting Refinery. We're not just refinery workers. We're your friends and neighbors, raising our families here, shopping in the same stores, and cheering in the same stands. USW Local 71, powering the region because we are the region.
All right, we're back. It's our last half hour, and we have a caller. And before we go to the caller, I just want to clarify a few things we're talking about with Mont. Oleg Gordievsky was the spy that I was thinking of in Spy and the Traitor, and it was Operation Ryan. And Ryan, R-Y-A-N, basically is an acronym that translates from Russian to nuclear missile attack. And that was the operation that Andropov launched in 1981, and basically the problem was it was not balanced. It was find proof that the U.S. is going to launch a nuclear attack, not tell us whether they were going to. 845-1100 is the number to call. We've got a caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, I hate to call back, but you've guilted me into listening.
Oh, good for you.
Since you scolded me like a petulant child.
Yes, and you deserve
which on
it.
occasion may be required. So when you said that Reagan had his finger on the button and everybody was scared to death, but if I'm not mistaken, that basically scared the rest of the world into world peace, right?
Absolutely. No. My point is that he actually, Reagan basically stared down the Soviets, okay? And he figured out that the Soviets couldn't compete economically. The American news media made it sound like he was, and that's what Mont and I were talking about, Mac, was they were making him sound like he was unstable and he shouldn't have his finger on the nuclear button and he wasn't in control. They basically bought into a lot of the Soviet propaganda. And when we have this show, it's going to be very interesting because there's so many elements of the story where the American news media was totally duped by the Soviets into believing that Reagan was like this unstable guy. And in reality, you had Andropov, who was like on his deathbed. I believe he had like 24-hour-a-day IVs going into him. And the guy was...
Sounds like you.
Yeah, right. He was in really bad physical shape. And the Russians basically, the Soviets planted a lot of false stories, and the U.S. media bought into it. And again, what he did was he launched this investigation. He said, we're going to launch Operation Ryan, and we need proof that the U.S. is going to launch nuclear weapons against us. And some of the spies at the time, like Oleg Gordievsky, who basically converts later, he becomes a double spy for the West. He said the problem is that the order was never, we need to determine whether the U.S. was going to launch the attack. The whole mission was, we need to determine that they are going to launch the attack, and there lies the problem. And it comes to a fever pitch in the fall of 1983, and basically we're operating a simulation called Operation Able Archer, which was a computerization and simulation of a nuclear attack. And the Soviets were aware that we were using the software. We at least told them, we said, look, this is for our readiness and our preparation. Ignore this, it's not a real attack. And the Soviets, somehow, their computers believe that it is a real attack. And basically, due to one officer refuses to carry out the command to launch the Soviet nuclear weapons against the United States and NATO. And that's what's so terrifying. So, you and I grew up and we were always told, the Cuban Missile Crisis was the worst crisis in history, and thanks to the valiant efforts of JFK and his brother, we basically avoided nuclear holocaust. That's nothing.
When they weren't banging the teenagers in the White House pool. Yeah,
absolutely. And did you ever read that book, Ask Not? Because you need to read it.
Ask Not?
Ask Not. Buy the book, Ask Not. I'll tell you what, you'll read that book, you'll start on it, and you will not put it down. It's all about the Kennedy family. It even talks about Bobby Kennedy, Jr., who, he's the Secretary of Health and Human Services. But, if I were his current wife, I'd worry, because the last wife, he gave a funeral and said that she was the greatest person on earth and she'd always be a Kennedy. They bury her in the Kennedy family plot. And then 3 days later, they dig her up and put her out by the road in an unmarked grave. There's a lot of stuff. You got to read that book. That is an amazing book. It's a bestseller, by the way. But
that's hard to believe from such a good Democratic family from the East Coast. I can't believe that their morals were that low.
When you read that book, it basically will shut the door on any belief that the Kennedy family is anything in the realm of being a morally sound family. It just
how dare you? You're probably going to end up with Kuziak on the bench after that crack.
No, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what's really amazing. My brother Mark points out that this book is a bestseller. It is the one book that the Kennedy family has always filed lawsuits against every author who writes a negative book about them. They haven't filed a lawsuit against the author for this book. She had too many sources.
I'll tell you another one. But
when you read the book, it's footnoted on every page. Half the page is footnotes because she's so precise in what she's claiming. But getting back to this whole issue of 1983, it's shocking because there's a series of events that really bring us within seconds of a nuclear war. And I don't know about you, but I remember what I was doing in the fall of 1983. And think about it. You didn't think you were like going to get vaporized by a nuclear weapon at any moment. You knew nothing about it. Nobody did. And they never told us until a few years ago about what really happened. And then you have this accident in 1980 that would have blown a hole. A 9 megaton bomb. It was the largest warhead we had. And the thing literally, the rocket blows up, the missile blows up in the silo. The warhead is ejected. Where? This is in Arkansas, where the Titan II missiles were, and near Damascus, Arkansas. And the warhead is ejected out of the silo. So the warhead now, basically all the sensors on the warhead are telling it that it's in motion. So it's live. It's ready to explode. And it lands in a cornfield like 650 yards away. And what's really crazy about it is there's one additional sensor that was added to the Titan II that most people, including most people in the Air Force, didn't know about. And the guy who insists on adding that additional sensor is Curtis LeMay, who the Kennedy family, of course, chastises and says he's a warmonger and everything else. And it's totally false. He wasn't. And it ends up that because of that one sensor, the warhead doesn't go off and doesn't basically blow out most of the southeast United States.
It was a nuclear warhead?
It was a nuclear warhead. It was a 9-megaton nuclear warhead.
Might have brought the GPA up and down in Arkansas. You never know.
Well, and what's really interesting is, as I said before, when Mont called, is that Carter is president. He's alerted. Carter, of course, had been, been on a nuclear-powered submarine. He understood nuclear weapons quite well. He's terrified too that this warhead's going to explode. And then the Air Force says to him, "Well, should we contact the governor of Arkansas?" And basically, word comes back from Carter and his administration. His chief of staff says, "No, we don't trust that guy." So they don't tell the governor. They don't tell the governor. I'm trying to think of his name.
It wasn't Bill Clinton, was it?
No. Well, the governor of Arkansas is Bill Clinton. Yes. Yes.
So that's the guy. That's the guy they didn't trust.
They
Hard
didn't
to
trust.
believe.
They did not trust him.
What was he on the intern circuit at the time?
Well, they didn't trust him, and I mean, to me, that's pretty amazing because you've got this. They realize they don't have time to evacuate Arkansas. Besides, if they evacuate Arkansas, they have to evacuate Arkansas, Tennessee, Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas. I mean, they're all going to get blown. They're all going to be destroyed. I mean, the point is that this 9-megaton bomb would actually cause fallout and damage in St. Louis, Missouri. I mean, that's how big this bomb is, right? And so
it's it's nuclear. I mean, it's as the crow flies. I mean, everything's going to head east. Everybody's getting it,
right.
Some to an extent.
Right. But they don't bother to tell the governor of Arkansas because they don't trust him, and it's Bill Clinton.
Yeah, what a shocker. Well, the reason I called, though, was because when you guys said about the media jumping all over Reagan for claiming, he's trigger happy and blah, 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 and yet the ability of Reagan to say, look, we're the last guys you want to mess with, and it kept world peace, right? And, of course, me, Trump is my God. I was like, hey, that's what Donald Trump does. He says, hey, you step out of line, I might have to turn you into a Walmart parking lot.
Yeah, although
it kept world peace pretty well in his first term. And last time I checked, it's pretty calm in the Middle East these days.
I give him a lot of credit. And his foreign policy actions have been right on target. They've been fantastic. But going back to Ronald Reagan, what's really interesting is when you start doing a deep dive, Reagan had some real amazing partners in his plan to take down the Soviet Union. I mean, there's no doubt Ronald Reagan planned to take down the Soviet Union. He knew how to do it. He had a plan in place, and then he's got these great partners. He's got Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Maiden, right? So he's got her, and then he's got Pope John Paul II, who, of course, is like the face and the voice that really helps turn the tide in Eastern Europe. I mean, he's got a couple of willing partners that really help in his plan to take down the Soviet Union, and he does a phenomenal job. But again,
I would have to say if you and Mont were on doing this for 3 hours, this might be one of the best shows WJOB could have. Man, that would be. I mean, because it's fascinating. Because all these things that you're saying, I've never heard of, and it's amazing. I mean, I can't imagine a freaking nuclear bomb landing in a cotton field in Arkansas. It's like,
yeah.
What did you guys tell me that thing is laying out there?
Yeah, I mean, again,
it's just stunning,
It's totally stunning, and they have no idea. And the stuff that goes on during the early 1980s is so terrifying and so amazing that, again, we're only really finding out about it now. I mean, Oleg Gordievsky, here's this spy who basically is a traitor. He's basically getting promoted by the Soviets, and he's feeding the U.S. and NATO information the entire time. That's another great book. To me, it's remarkable. He gives up his family, of course, to defect to Great Britain, and there's some real personal challenges that he has to make. But the stories that happen in the early 1980s are absolutely fascinating. And people have this idea that like the Soviets just kind of ran out of gas. It's all structured. It's very precise. There's there is a lot of planning that goes into this, but at the same time, there's this massive hiccup, two of them, in the early 1980s. One is with this Damascus incident, and the other one is the bigger incident, which is the fall of 1983, where the Soviets are ready to annihilate us, and they have no idea that everything that's going on basically is they're totally wrong. But they've worked themselves into this frenzy, and when they see Operation Able Archer, they believe that this is now an attack. They also remember when Reagan goes on the radio and he did his weekly radio address, and he plays with the mic and he says, he's testing the mic and he says, we're going to bomb Moscow within the next 30 minutes or something.
Yeah. When he's just joking, right?
Right. Well, they believe that that's a signal to operatives worldwide to get ready, that this, we're really going to blow them up. They believe all this stuff.
Like blink twice, right?
It's really amazing. It's, again, because of one officer in the Soviet military, we were not completely annihilated by a nuclear attack, an all-out nuclear attack.
How ironic that with Reagan having his finger on the quote-unquote button. The media, the Democrats, and the deep state are all saying he's insane, and yet he's getting better results than anybody had ever got, which is the exact same thing Trump's got so far. But hey, real quick, I got $100 for anybody. Frank votes no, number one. Chuck Pullen wanted to call in, and when you said about the Lolita Express, when the owner said it was tainted, he wants to know what you meant by tainted. And then a book for you to read came out in 2018 called Ball of Collusion by Andrew McCarthy, and it details exactly what Trump has been trying to bring on forever regarding what was going on prior to him getting elected the first time and after, how Obama, Biden, the CIA, the FBI, the Department of Justice, the IRS were in total collusion to ruin this guy's, to not only not get him in, once he got in, to destroy him. And this book is exactly like Ask Not Then, because this is the only guy with all the stuff he's saying, and you would shake your head, you go, this can't have actually happened, and it did, because Andrew McCarthy has never even been, no one's even attempted to take the guy to court.
Well, you know what? Andrew McCarthy, and Andrew McCarthy, I'm a little surprised, to be honest with you, because he's kind of a moderate. He's not all in with Trump. So you're reading a book and referencing a book that's just not all in on Donald Trump. By the way, Dave from Miller just texted me and said there was also the accident where the in Mars Bluff, South Carolina, in 1958, where a nuclear bomb was dropped from a B-52 in an accident. The nuclear core was not installed, so it did not detonate. Wow. And that was another one. But that one, the nuclear core was not installed, so it wasn't like the one in Damascus, Arkansas.
Yeah, but the one on North Carolina, it landed so close to the beach, it was the precursor for that thing you guys put on the beach in Whiting, the sliding thing,
Well, you're right about that. I mean,
floaties around it, spray painted a yellow.
Well, there was another accident with another nuclear weapon that was dropped in Spain years ago in the 1960s, I believe, and it was also a near miss, But again, the biggest near miss is this one in Arkansas, because again, the missile explodes in the silo. It pushes the warhead up and out, goes out the doors, flies out, lands about 650 yards away in, basically in some farm field. And by the way, they search all night looking for the darn thing. They can't find it. They know it's somewhere, but they don't know where.
And there's a farmer out there with a sledgehammer trying to say, hey, I can't get around this thing, Jethro. run that tractor and roll right.
Well, you know what? In the book Command and Control, they worry about just that some farmer is going to, either drive his tractor into it or latch onto the thing or try and move it.
Some scrapper pulls up with four pickup trucks and a welding machine. Yeah, we got a lot here, baby.
Well, if it happened in
Like
Northwest
that torch.
Indiana, you're right. There'd be scrappers tearing it apart. They'd be selling it for scrap. You're right about that. Hey,
Good
thanks.
show, bro. I gotta go. You keep going, and I'll call you next. Well, hey, are you subbing this Friday?
No,
I
this
hear that
Friday
spot's still open.
I've got things to do this Friday, but I will be back next Wednesday, and we will do that show in December with Mont and myself.
Did you see that Andrea game over the weekend? Andrea won like 120-0 over Rensselaer, and I guess somehow Kuziak made it onto the air and said that victory was like kissing your mother. I was like, what is he talking about?
Well, I'll tell you what.
How did he get back on the air?
Well, I have no idea. I didn't know that he was, but I will say this. Andrean looked very solid. They looked
Allegedly.
very, very solid. Allegedly.
Later,
yeah,
brother.
That's what I figured. All right, take care. 845-1100. We have another caller. So, I mean, let me ask you this, Lynette. You weren't around in the 1980s, so you don't know what we're talking about. But and to this day, of course, you're aware that we have thousands of nuclear weapons. We have about 6,500 nuclear weapons, and the Soviets have about the same number, and we could annihilate mankind if we wanted to, right? So in the 1980s, there were about 30,000 nuclear weapons. We could blow up the world like 6 times over. I mean, it was insane. We didn't need all these nuclear weapons. To this day, if there was an all-out nuclear exchange, it would still destroy the Earth. But back then, we had enough to blow up the world 6 times over. And there are these accidents and these mistakes that take us to the brink of annihilation. And what's truly remarkable is we know nothing about it, and it goes basically uncovered, not covered by the news media for years and years. And then finally, a few years ago, some authors start digging in and finding out about this information. I mean, can you imagine if a 9-megaton nuclear weapon had exploded in Arkansas? You wouldn't be going to Tennessee. You wouldn't be going to Texas. I mean, you have family in the state of Texas. There would be basically life as you know it in Texas would be annihilated. Mississippi, Alabama, northern Florida, Georgia. This thing was massive, and it literally lands in a field, and the military can't even find it because it's like 2 a.m. and it's pitch black, and they can't find the darn thing. It's just, to me, it's frightening. And so we'll talk about that one day in December, and we'll talk about these issues with the Soviets in 1983. And Mon Hanley's so right. We came within a millisecond. There's this guy who's dying who believes that nuclear war is inevitable, and it's basically in the blood and the right of the Soviets to launch. And so he wants to launch this nuclear war, and he's absolutely convinced that we're going to do the same to him, so he's going to launch first. He gives the order to launch, and they don't launch. And that's what saves us, the decision-making by one person. It also brings up a book that I've spoken about before called The Army of None, which we now have weapons that largely depend on AI. And what if a computer makes a mistake? So we have all this weaponry that basically depends on AI, and the computers can make mistakes. I mean, they made a mistake in the 1980s. They can make a mistake now. They can misread something. And the problem is that when they put these weapon systems on total automatic function, basically the only way you can stop it is if you intercede and turn it off in time, because otherwise the computer is going to make the decision to launch, and you're not going to be making a decision at all. And the problem is a lot of these weapons are no longer manned by human beings, and it's kind of scary because if it launches, it could start Armageddon, and there's no control. So there are a number of fascinating aspects to this whole issue that we'll cover in December. But 845-1100, we're looking for the last caller of the day. Got 9 minutes left. We've talked about all kinds of things. A couple of callers, brought up the predicament that I think Frank Mervan and others find themselves in tonight. Do they vote to reopen government, which is what everybody, Democrat and Republican, mainstream said last week? Or does he vote to support his party's agenda, which is we're not going to vote for it because we didn't get everything we wanted? And that's a real predicament for him. Personally, I think that if I were him, I'd tell the party to take their money and go hide out somewhere, because I'm going to go ahead and vote for it. We know this much: we know that the Republicans have enough votes to get the bill passed, which also is a predicament. Do you vote for a bill that you know is going to get passed and you end up on the majority side, or do you sit there and still vote no? So we have the last caller of the day. Good morning, you're on the air.
The 8 Democrats that have already decided to vote with the Republicans and do the right thing have provided guys like Frank Mervan an off-ramp by which to do what would be quote-unquote the right thing. Frank hasn't got any balls. He would not vote for the CR under any other circumstances. But he now has an off-ramp by which to do so. And it'll be interesting to see which direction he goes. He's proven himself on other issues. The way his voting record speaks for itself. He follows lockstep with Pelosi. He won't stand for a kid with cancer, but now he's got an out. Let's see what direction.
He does, and you're right. Politically, he has an out, because it's going to be a lot tougher for people to say that he's not being bipartisan if he votes for the continuing resolution. And that's a very valid point. On the other hand, if he votes against it, he's voting against an awful lot of people. The general public wants government to be reopened. They want the continuing resolution to pass. So it's quite a predicament for him. I mean, I wish him the best, and I think he has to make a decision. Is he going to vote with the general public, or is he going to vote with his party? And there are consequences on both sides. I mean, like somebody said before, if you're Frank Mervan and you vote against the party, do they make things difficult for you? Maybe they don't primary him, but maybe they make it difficult. Maybe they strip him of some of his appointments, some of his committees. So they can take that away at any time. So it's not an easy decision for him to make.
I personally don't think he has the sack to go against his party. I think he will continue to follow lockstep, but for him, I think that would be political suicide, because he's teetering on the edge here in the first congressional district, anyways. The numbers warrant the fact that there's more Republicans. It's getting a little tougher for him to win here in the first district, and if he doubles down, I think he's written his own ticket here. I think it's going to be easier to beat him.
Well, I think you're right about that. I think it really sets the stage. I mean, think about it. Next year is the election year, right? So you're going to have people out there, and they're going to be bringing up constantly. Let's just say he doesn't vote for it, and they're going to bring up that he did not vote for the continuing resolution. And anybody that was getting SNAP benefits or working for the government, or had a family working for the government, or were inconvenienced by airplane flights being canceled, they're going to remember that. And that's going to be very difficult for him to live down. At the same time, if he votes for it, then he's got to deal with the wrath of his party, which can make things very difficult for him as well. And he's got no easy choice.
And don't get me wrong, I don't think a CR is the answer. I think, our elected officials at the federal level need to do their job, be more fiscally responsible, and rewrite the whole damn thing, break it down, and start over again.
Yep.
But, considering the circumstances we're in now and the amount of people that are adversely impacted, go with the CR. We'll see what he does. It'll be interesting. Never a dull moment.
Yeah, there is never a dull moment, and you're right about that. Look, the CR is going to go ahead and approve the budgets for agriculture, military construction and something else. I can't remember what it is, but through the entire fiscal year, which ends in October of 2026. What about the rest of the budget? Why can't we get a budget passed so we don't have to have these CRs constantly? I'm sick and tired of having the government continue funding for 3 months at a time. Let's get a budget that basically funds the government for an entire year. Maybe that's a start for Congress to dig itself out of the hole that it's in as far as its reputation, senators and congressmen alike. I mean, people are tired of this. We're tired of the gridlock, aren't you?
That's the bigger issue that people are overlooking. They're just not doing their job. These guys are not qualified to be dog catcher, much less senators and congressmen.
Look, if you went to work and you did your job wrong day in and day out, and you didn't do your job day in and day out, you wouldn't have a job, right? And so why is it that we allow Congress to function? I mean, the approval rate for Congress has hovered below 20% for over a decade now. That tells us something's definitely wrong. Yet we reelect a lot of the same people, a lot of those same characters. I mean, you look at the cast of characters that's out there right now, and again, I won't use any of the newer people. I'll use two old stalwarts, Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell. I mean, really, how is it that we elected those two guys to the U.S. Senate?
It's amazing.
It is. And you know what? The nice thing about bringing them up is Republicans can appreciate the point and Democrats can appreciate the point because nobody likes either of them. And they have been obstructionists in the Senate for years, both of them. And now they're finally getting pushed out. McConnell's not running again. And it's pretty obvious Schumer's not going to run again either. But it's just sad. It's sad that we're in that boat. Hey, thanks so much for calling.
Enjoy the rest of your week.
You as well. Folks, that ends the morning call for this week in November of 2025. And again, we'll be back next Wednesday morning beginning at 6 a.m. and invite you to call in then and give your opinions on anything and everything that goes on. Love to take your calls. And Mad Mac is right. We're going to do that show in sometime in early December. Mon Hanley and I talking about what went on with nuclear war in the 1980s because it's an amazing story and it'll send a chill up your spine to realize that we may have been annihilated and by the grace of God we weren't. So we'll do that in December. Again, coming up next week, we'll look forward to taking your calls. And between now and then, keep it tuned right here all day, all week to WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. Have a great day, folks. Take care. And don't forget the Northern Lights tonight, folks. You got to see it. Take care. Bye-bye.
This is Phil Patumpa with an all-new Thanksgiving theme from the Farm Stage Cooking Show. This month at the Center for Visual and Performing Arts in Munster. Spend Sunday afternoon, November 16th, as we serve up the charm and traditions of our family farm kitchen that I write about each week in my From the Farm column for Chicago Tribune Media. Southern deep-fried turkey is the highlight of a 7-course meal, whipped up along with all the seasonal recipe favorites in a fast-paced, fun 2-hour program with $1,000 in prizes and giveaways. Tickets just $35. Visit cvpa.org.